हेलो फ्रेंड्स, वेलकम बैक टू माय चैनल। तो आज मैं इसका नेक्स्ट पार्ट लेके आ चुका हूँ। तो बिना किसी देरी के चलिए स्टार्ट करते हैं।
Chapter 99, The Unlucky Guy. In the back mountains of the Cloud Mist sect, at the secluded cultivation grounds of the former Cloud Mist sect master, Yun Chan. Who? Jiehieji, it is rather presumptuous of me to disturb sect leader Yun's peaceful cultivation. The eerie laughter emitted by Protector Wu seemed to pierce straight into Yun Chan's heart. You are a member of the Hall of Souls. Yun Chan quickly spotted the iconic black mist, which was precisely the trademark appearance of those acting on behalf of the Hall of Souls. To think that sect leader Yun knows quite a bit. It's just a pity that ever since Yun Podian, the Cloud Mist sect has had no one to carry on its legacy. Protector Wu seemed genuinely regretful, letting out a sigh of lament. Led by its ancestral master, Yun Podian, the Cloud Mist sect had once become one of the top factions on the fighting Chi continent. Alas, there had been no one to carry on after him, and following Yun Podian's death, it had declined into a third-rate faction that struggled to even produce a dozong. Yun Chan knew that with his own strength, it was utterly impossible to take down the person before him. After all, a protector of the Hall of Souls possessed at least the strength of a dozong. What exactly does the Hall of Souls want by seeking out the Cloud Mist sect? Yun Chan was not a fool. He certainly knew that the Hall of Souls would not look for him without a reason. Jiehieji, naturally, it is to make a deal with the Cloud Mist sect. Having heard Protector Wu's explanation, Yun Chan, whose reason still remained, directly and bluntly refused. Impossible. Don't be in such a rush to refuse. Sect leader Yun's lifespan is probably running short, and his breakthrough to dozong is also hanging by a thread. There's no harm in waiting until then for sect leader Yun to give me an answer. Protector Wu let out a Jiehieji laugh and tossed a token toward Yun Chan. Even until he could no longer sense Protector Wu's aura at all, Yun Chan still did not relax in the slightest. The fact that the other party could silently breach the Cloud Mist sect's protecting barrier and appear before him without a sound was enough to show that the other party's strength was far superior to his own. However, what Protector Wu said was correct. He had been stuck at Peak Do Huang for many years. If he could no longer find a suitable opportunity for a breakthrough, he was afraid he truly wouldn't be able to hold on much longer. Yet Yun Chan was also clear that joining hands with the Hall of Souls was merely aiding a tyrant. This also gave Yun Chan a headache. Fortunately, the Hall of Souls was not in a hurry for him to agree, and he still had a chance. In Yun Yun's room, Nalan Yanran was pulling Yun Yun along to chat. The two were both master and friend, and even closer than sisters. Master, my family wants me to go back for a trip. Yun Yun's distracted gaze finally looked over at Nalan Yanran. Just moments ago, she had sensed the aura of those fellows. Just like in her past life, the Hun clan had sought out Yun Chan. You secretly ran off to the Cloud Mist sect, how could they not be anxious? Yun Yun replied with exasperation. It's not that, master. This time, it seems grandfather has returned. Nalan Yanran only knew that the family's message was extremely anxious, and she had no choice but to report it to her master. Nalan Jia, at this moment, he should be afflicted with the imprint poison. In that case, this master will go with you to the Nalan family to see your grandfather this time. After all, the matter of taking you as a disciple still requires your grandfather's consent. Yun Yun stood up, intending to personally accompany Nalan Yanran back. Hearing that Yun Yun would return with her, Nalan Yanran instantly gained confidence. At the very least, with her master present regarding the matter of her secretly fleeing the family, her father and grandfather certainly wouldn't severely punish her. Master, you are so good. Nalan Yanran threw her arms around Yun Yun in a hug. Of course, Yun Yun was not merely accompanying Nalan Yanran to see Nalan Jia, she wanted even more to inquire about that Tier 4 alchemist mentioned by Nalan Yanran. In her heart, Yun Yun dared to be certain that it must be Xiao Fan, and only Xiao Fan could match Nalan Yanran's description. Ziyan, big sister. Having recovered her sight, little Qinglin walked with brisk, light steps, curiously sizing up the world. Seeing the world through her own eyes was still somewhat different from sharing visual senses with Xiaoling. This was also the first time little Qinglin learned that the world was not an endless, boundless black but rather colorful and vibrant. Ziyan, big sister, so cute. PFF. Hearing these words, Xiao Fan couldn't help laughing out loud. He truly hadn't expected that the very first sentence little Qinglin would say upon meeting Ziyan after recovering her sight was a point-blank psychological strike. If anyone else had said that to Ziyan, Ziyan would have at least shown the other party just how formidable her cute self could be in a fight. Brother, did Qinglin say something wrong? Little Qinglin tilted her head unsurely as she asked Xiao Fan. Of course not, little Xiao Yan is naturally very cute. Xiao Fan grabbed Ziyan and pulled her over, fiercely messing up her purple hair. Xiao Fan. Sure enough, Ziyan instantly flew into a rage, thrusting out her pink fists as she swung toward Xiao Fan. Way ha ha ha. Letting out grunts and shouts, Ziyan lunged toward Xiao Fan. Xiao Fan propped his hand against Ziyan's head, quite skillfully extending his arm to block. Right punch. Left punch. Below. Sidestep. For several consecutive moves, the two of them acted as if they had planned it out beforehand, one responsible for hitting, the other responsible for dodging. Seeing that she couldn't hit him, Ziyan grew even more anxious, her two ponytails slipping high up into the air as they also joined the battle. Like a spinning windmill, they stirred up gusts of wind. Seeing the comical scene between the two of them, little Qinglin let out giggling sounds. The little one truly liked this kind of atmosphere. This was the feeling of home, of family. Far warmer than the dark, damp room she had in Shimo Town, a warmth that refreshed the heart and soul. Watching little Qinglin smiling like a flower, Xiao Fan was also momentarily stunned. So even the once self-belittling little one could smile this happily. Good opportunity. Instantly seizing the moment when Xiao Fan was distracted, Ziyan used both hands to grab the large hand Xiao Fan had pressed against her head, her two ponytails wrapping around his arm like purple poisonous snakes. Ziyan exerted strength all over her body and executed a flawless backward arch bear hug throw. Regaining his senses, Xiao Fan found that he had already traced a flawless arc through the air, shooting toward the doorway like a cannonball. I'm done for. At this moment, Xiao Fan only wanted to say, brain, start working quickly. Qi, start circulating quickly. If he were to take this solid blow, Xiao Fan felt that he would once again be unable to get out of bed for a day. This was the sequela of being a dragon knight. Brother Xiao. Hai Bodong inopportunely appeared at the doorway, only to see a dark shadow hurtling straight toward his face. Bang, bang, bang. Hearing this sound, Xiao Fan knew that not only did he need to repair the door, but the courtyard outside and the floor also needed renovations. Fortunately, there was someone behind him helping to block most of the impact. Cough, cough. Hai Bodong looked in disbelief at the pit he had crashed out. Without any defense, his physical strength was at least at the Do Huang level, yet from that single collision just now, he felt as though his consciousness had even gone blank for a moment. Hai Bodong looked at the sky in shock. Could this possibly be the power of an earth-rank cultivation technique? Cough, cough, Elder Hai, are you alright? Xiao Fan scratched his head awkwardly. What are you guys? The little one was just playing around. Playing around, Hai Bodong repeated in horror, truly because the impact this blow brought him was far too great. It was even more intense than Queen Medusa. As expected, Brother Xiao really knows how to play wildly. Hai Bodong sighed, unable to calm down for a long time. Quote ellipsis quote. Chapter 100 President Fa Ma. Old Hai, is there something you need me for? Xiao Fan knew that Hai Bodong wouldn't come looking for him without a reason. Sigh, it's just those old fellows from the royal family and other family factions insisting on seeing you. Hai Bodong helplessly informed Xiao Fan of the matter. Truth be told, the 2 consecutive waves of soul pressure had made many experts in the imperial capital somewhat restless. Because Xiao Fan was helping Qing Lin unpack the seal, his soul power was entirely poured into the seal, so naturally he hadn't noticed the arrival of those few individuals from the imperial capital. However, in just a brief moment, Xiao Fan clearly sensed the arrivals through his soul perception. The old fellows from the royal family and the alchemist guild could be considered old acquaintances. Elder Hai, I'll go over in a moment, Xiao Fan replied. Since the other party wanted to meet, he would inevitably have to fleece some benefits from them. Grandpa Hai. Qing Lin happily ran out, handing over a pristine white silk scarf. Hai Bodong was greatly shocked in his heart, momentarily not knowing how to speak. He looked at Xiao Fan beside him, and Xiao Fan nodded towards Hai Bodong. With a snotty and tearful expression, Hai Bodong took the silk scarf handed over by Qing Lin and said with great agitation, Qing Lin, can you see now? MN, thanks to Big Brother. Qing Lin still wore a brilliant smile. Seeing that Qing Lin, whom he regarded as his own granddaughter, was able to regain her sight, Hai Bodong suddenly felt that the matters of the royal family and the alchemist guild were no big deal after all. Hai Bodong squatted down so that Qing Lin could see him a bit more clearly. Hai Bodong put on what he thought was a kind smile and asked Qing Lin, is Grandpa handsome? Seeing Hai Bodong's appearance, Xiao Fan couldn't help but internally retort, is this really the Ice Emperor Hai Bodong who slaughtered a city all by himself? Shoo, I'm chatting with Qing Lin. Hearing Xiao Fan's words, Hai Bodong instantly broke character. Qing Lin nodded and honestly replied, Grandpa Hai is very handsome. Hai Bodong knew that Qing Lin had just regained her sight and actually had no concept of beauty. Moreover, Hai Bodong was merely the second man Qing Lin had ever seen. However, Hai Bodong was still quite gratified in his heart. After all, one's own family would never despise their own. Even though Hai Bodong's face bore the vicissitudes of time and an unsightly scar, in Qing Lin's eyes, he was the man second only to Xiao Fan. Perhaps Qing Lin would develop her own aesthetic in the future and form different thoughts from now, but at least at this moment, Hai Bodong felt Qing Lin's deep sincerity. Indeed, once upon a time, there was also a girl who praised me like that. Hai Bodong was instantly stirred by the scene, thinking of his junior sister. It's also been a long time since I went to see junior sister. Hai Bodong carefully calculated, it had been at least 20 years since he last paid respects to junior sister. It wasn't that Hai Bodong had forgotten, otherwise it wouldn't have weighed on his mind continuously for a full 20 years. On the contrary, it was because he didn't know how to go visit her. Born in slaughter, dying in slaughter. And she had also willingly died at Hai Bodong's hands. Immense guilt and regret hung in Hai Bodong's heart, unable to settle for a long time. He hated the nearly perverted rules of the mercenaries, but he hated his own inaction at the time even more, hating his own incompetence. Elder Hai. Xiao Fan shook the dazed Hai Bodong, and only then did Hai Bodong snap back from his oppressive state of mind. Grandpa Hai, don't be sad, Qing Lin is here. Qing Lin could likewise sense the guilt in Hai Bodong's heart, and imitating Xiao Fan's tone, she comforted Hai Bodong. Hai Bodong let out a hearty laugh. Indeed, our Qing Lin will surely achieve extraordinary accomplishments in the future. Hai Bodong knew that Qing Lin's talent was extremely high. Having regained her sight, Qing Lin's strength would become even more unstoppable, and she would undoubtedly achieve extraordinary accomplishments in the future. Holding Qing Lin's hand, Hai Bodong no longer intended to bother with those fellows from the royal family, he would just leave it to Xiao Fan to handle. Elder Hai, I'll leave Qing Lin to you. Xiao Fan thought for a moment, leaned closer to Hai Bodong, and whispered, the imperial capital probably won't stay peaceful next. How powerful was Xiao Fan's perception of the soul, especially of those from the Hall of Souls who like to hide in the dark and plot. Even from far away, Xiao Fan had detected their aura. After all, having dealt with them so many times in his past life and even destroying the Han clan, how could he, Xiao Fan, not be familiar with it? Xiao Fan understood that their target should be the Cloud Mist sect, but he believed that if Qing Lin's spirit realm soul were discovered by the Hall of Souls, the other party would undoubtedly capture Qing Lin without leaving any room for hesitation. Little brother Xiao, you can rest assured 100 times over. Hai Bodong patted his chest in assurance. Seeing Hai Bodong being so confident, Xiao Fan had no choice but to drag the still huffy Ziyan to go meet those old fellows. As long as Qing Lin did not actively use her soul power, the probability of her being discovered wouldn't be high. Sister Yafei. Xiao Fan enthusiastically called out as usual to Yafei, who was dressed in a blazing red dress. At this moment, Yafei had evidently been dealing with the fellows from the royal family and the alchemist guild for quite a while, and her face carried a hint of worry. Sigh, you stinky little brother, you've finally come. Yafei revealed a smile, lightly pursed her red lips, and complained to Xiao Fan. Hee, you've worked hard, Sister Yafei. Xiao Fan leapt up and sat on the main seat, showing no timidity whatsoever because of the 2 Do Huang experts present. Jia Xingtian didn't find this strange at all. He knew Xiao Fan had such an uninhibited personality. On the contrary, this kind of personality felt more like the attitude someone with a massive background would have. As for the other slightly elderly elder, whose eyes were slightly sunken due to old age and who had a head of grayish-white hair, he constantly stroked the long beard on his chin. On his head, he wore a bronze medicine cauldron as a hat that was almost taller than a person, revealing only a pair of deep eyes, seemingly deep in thought while also sizing up Xiao Fan. Xiao Fan sensed a probe of soul power upon his body that didn't carry any malice, but Xiao Fan didn't like being probed arbitrarily, so he directly blasted that strand of soul power away. This action caused the old man's beard to twitch and the strange hat on top of his head to almost fall off. Ziyan even blurted out an unreserved complaint. This old fellow is so impolite. To be complained about as impolite by Ziyan could only mean one thing. The other party was truly ill-mannered, even worse than Ziyan herself. Hey, Xiao Fan, are you lecturing me in your heart? Ziyan waved her small pink fists. Xiao Yanner, be good. Xiao Fan directly shoved 2 bottles of sugar pills to block the little fellow's mouth. HMPH, munch, munch. Xiao Fan turned his gaze back to the elder and unhurriedly spoke. President Fa Ma, probing someone else's strength so casually is quite impolite, isn't it? Fa Ma only then remembered that standing behind the person before him was an alchemist great master. Having served as president for many years, he was already used to probing others' backgrounds. But this time was different. In the past when he probed others, the other party wouldn't have any reaction. But this time, not only was he caught red-handed, but he was also deterred by the other party to the point of almost vomiting blood. He thought to himself secretly, this kid is terrifyingly formidable, 100 times stronger than this old man was back in my day. President Fa Ma swallowed his saliva before slowly speaking, Master Xiao is truly extraordinary, I'm afraid his level isn't just that of a tier 4 alchemist. Quote. Chapter 101, Heavenly Demon Phoenix Blood. There is no need to say flattering words, President Fa Ma. Xiao Fan appeared very impatient. Jia Xingtian was well aware of Xiao Fan's background. This fellow was someone who never left empty-handed, his main purpose this time was probably Fa Ma's private collection. As the president of an empire's alchemist guild, the deeply respected Fa Ma suffered a setback in the capital for the very first time. Yet the other party was merely a whip behind the ears brat. Even after suffering a setback, Fa Ma did not dare to harbor any grievances because he knew the other party was not just a 5th-rank alchemist, but perhaps even a 6th-rank alchemist surpassing himself. If he could please the other party and obtain the legacy of a 6th-rank alchemist, even a sliver of insight leaking through the cracks of his fingers might loosen the bottleneck that had troubled Fa Ma, a 5th-rank alchemist, for many years. Just as Jia Xingtian had anticipated, President Fa Ma took out many treasured pill formulas. These were formulas he had collected over many years, including quite a few high-tier ones, which were undoubtedly the most attractive things to any alchemist. Master Xiao, these are pill formulas that this old man has collected over many years, offered as an apology. Perhaps in the past, Xiao Fan would have been interested in pill formulas, but he was different now. Any random pill formula from his mind would shock Fa Ma into speechlessness. Let alone 6th-rank pill formulas, he wouldn't even bat an eye at 8th-rank ones. Unless it was a 9th-rank or even a super 9th-rank pill formula, Xiao Fan might not even entertain the thought. President Fa Ma probably didn't expect that. In Xiao Fan's eyes, his many years of collection weren't even as practical as 2 bottles of pills. Fa Ma secretly resolved in his heart that even if he had to risk his bottom box treasures, he must consult Xiao Fan. Master Xiao, this is the pill formula for the 6th-rank Wangji pill, I only ask. Before he could finish speaking, he was interrupted by Xiao Fan. President Fa Ma, to tell you the truth, I am not interested in pill formulas. Fa Ma did not understand the meaning of these words, mistakenly thinking that even a 6th-rank pill formula could not get Xiao Fan's eye. After all, what alchemist was not interested in pill formulas? It was just like a businessman saying he wasn't interested in money. President Fa Ma froze in place. It was Jia Xingtian who took the initiative to step out and rescue President Fa Ma from his awkwardness, saying, Master Xiao, I have a stock of 6th-rank medicinal material, Budian Lingzi, which can be used as the main medicinal material for the Kingming longevity pill. Hearing this, Yan made the first move, jumping in front of Jia Xingtian and extending her hand. Xiao Yaner, you cannot be rude, Xiao Fan reminded. What are you saying, Master Xiao? Since the little fellow is so lovely, it is only right for this old man to give her some medicinal materials, Jia Xingtian said as he already handed the Budian Lingzi over to Yan. Seeing this situation, Fa Ma understood what was going on. Evidently, the unfathomable little fellow before him was the real protagonist, so he followed suit and pulled out a 5th-rank medicinal material as an apology gift. Seeing this scene, Jia Xingtian shook his head repeatedly. The answer had already been given to him, yet Fa Ma was still being so stingy, he couldn't blame Jia Xingtian for that. Yan merely leaned forward to sniff it, wrinkled her cute little nose, and walked away in disdain. She muttered under her breath, trash medicinal material, who are you trying to fool? Yan was full of life chi, and the consequences were very serious. Xiao Fan could also tell that the little fellow's palate had become picky, but that didn't mean 5th-rank medicinal materials had lost their appeal. Rather, there was a high probability that the little fellow had smelled something better on President Fa Ma. In response, Xiao Fan very skillfully played along with the little fellow. To think that the president of the dignified alchemist guild only has a 5th-rank medicinal material to show off. It seems this alchemist guild is just so-so. Xiao Fan pulled Yan over and, amidst the little fellow's pitiful gaze, took away the 6th-rank medicinal material, while handing a whole bottle of accompanying purple crystal source to her. Yan excitedly rubbed against Xiao Fan's outstretched hand, shaking the jade bottle in her hand as if showing off. Her gaze seemed to mock Fa Ma. Humph, look at my keeper, any little trinket he casually pulls out is worth more than what you brought out. This is accompanying purple crystal source. You might not even find a single bottle in thousands of amethyst demonic beast caves. President Fa Ma was heavily shocked by the accompanying purple crystal source produced by Xiao Fan. This was far better than the 5th-rank trash he had just taken. This was far better than the 5th-rank trash he had just taken out. Oh no, President Fa Ma was already treating the 5th-rank medicinal material that he had barely managed to present as trash. Hard-itching over this, President Fa Ma took out a 6th-rank medicinal pill no less inferior than Jia Xingtian's. Seeing this, Xiao Fan pulled out another green lotus seed, lovingly stroked the little fellow's head, and enduring the stinging pain from where she had bitten his chest earlier, said, drinking things must be accompanied by some snacks, right? Yan was also deeply shocked by Xiao Fan's extravagance. When did she ever get such good treatment usually? She was almost drooling from the corners of her mouth. What Xiao Fan wanted to make Fa Ma understand was that he lacked neither medicinal materials nor pill formulas. The feeding snacks he casually pulled out were worth more than whatever Fa Ma produced. Since Fa Ma was asking a favor of him, he needed to pull out some genuine goods. Fa Ma's mouth twitched continuously, and he already began to regret his decision to stay at the middle family. Seeing the green lotus seed containing powerful fire attributes that Xiao Fan casually handed to Yan, Fa Ma knew that if he didn't bring out some of his coffin board treasures, not only would he fail to gain any benefits, but he would also inexplicably offend an alchemist with a powerful background. President Fa Ma might be able to summon wind and rain in the Jiama Empire and possess immense appeal, but he knew that these achievements of his, in front of Xiao Fan, who was far stronger than him and possessed a higher level of alchemical skill, were merely status and achievements that could be obtained just by waving a hand. I am making a fool of myself before Master Xiao. This is a small bottle of heavenly demon phoenix demon blood that I obtained when I was traveling across the northwest continent years ago. Hearing about the heavenly demon phoenix clan, Xiao Fan found it hard to imagine that Fa Ma actually had this kind of thing. The Heavenly Demon Phoenix clan was notoriously vengeful. Fortunately, the Northwest continent was located in a remote area, and the Heavenly Demon Phoenix clan couldn't even be bothered to visit. Otherwise, if the Heavenly Demon Phoenix clan found out about this, they would definitely skin Fa Ma and pull his tendons out to interrogate him thoroughly. President Fa Ma, it's not that I didn't remind you. Fortunately, you have good luck, otherwise, this drop of Heavenly Demon Phoenix clan demon blood would be enough to cost you your life. Hearing Xiao Fan's serious tone, Fa Ma felt a jolt in his heart and hurriedly explained, This essence blood was a coincidence to begin with. At that time, a skeleton of the Heavenly Demon Phoenix clan was discovered, and I took advantage of the chaos to collect just this tiny bit. A mutt chicken. Ziyan leaned forward and took a bottle of demon blood. No wonder Ziyan had been so interested in Fa Ma all along. As it turned out, he was hiding rations belonging to a void ancient dragon on his body. Xiao Fan was very clear about this. The Heavenly Demon Phoenix clan had always claimed they were irreconcilable enemies with the Void Ancient Dragon, but the actual situation was that the Void Ancient Dragons couldn't even be bothered to give the Heavenly Demon Phoenix clan the time of day. Whenever they had nothing better to do, they would go to the territory of the Heavenly Demon Phoenix clan, catch a few, and take them back to roast and eat. It wasn't considered a major tonic, but the problem was that the roasted meat tasted delicious. Seeing that Ziyan was in a great mood, Xiao Fan's expression finally eased up somewhat. President Fa Ma has waited for so long, so you must have something you want to ask. This Xiao will certainly clear up your confusion. Come to think of it, I am still President Fa Ma's subordinate. Xiao Fan handed the token of the vice president of the Heisha City branch to Fa Ma. Although Fa Ma knew Xiao Fan had registered in the Alchemist Guild, he didn't know he came from Heisha City. Those fellows in Heisha City actually didn't even mention this matter. Quote. Chapter 102, Princess Xiao Yu. President Fa Ma did not hesitate either, stating his request straightforwardly. Master Xiao, to be honest, this old man has been stuck at the 5th rank alchemist level for many years and has failed to achieve a breakthrough to the 6th rank. I asked the Great Master for guidance. Xiao Fan always felt a bit strange. If someone had called him a Great Master in his past life, he wouldn't have thought much of it, but being called a Great Master in this life always gave him a peculiar feeling. Xiao Fan hesitated for a moment and hit the nail on the head regarding Fa Ma's problem. President Fa Ma's problem is very simple. Just like how the president presumptuously probed me earlier and was repelled by my soul power, the true key for an alchemist is not just cultivation but also soul power. Soul power. Fa Ma pondered his own situation. Having been a 5th rank alchemist for many years, he understood his own condition. His perception seemed to have never increased, which perhaps explained why his soul power was not strong, thus stopping him at the 5th rank alchemist stage. I wonder if the Great Master can point out a direction. Hearing this, the corners of Xiao Fan's mouth curled up. He knew the fish had taken the bait again. Of course there is no problem with that. After all, President Fa Ma can be considered my superior, right? I wouldn't dare. Fa Ma shook his head repeatedly, fearing that Xiao Fan would say something else to make things difficult. Ahem. Jia Xingtian abruptly coughed from the side and gave Fa Ma a look. Fa Ma finally stopped speaking foolishly and instead promised with a pang of heartache. This old man truly has no presentable medicinal materials on hand, but this old man is willing to share the Alchemist Guild's resources with the Great Master. Although it was improper for President Fa Ma to mobilize the guild's resources like this, he had truly been stuck at the 5th rank alchemist level for far too long and yearned immensely to advance to the 6th rank. The Alchemist Guild in the Imperial Capital was much more upscale than the Alchemist Guild in Heisha City. It was entirely possible to gather several sets of medicinal materials for 6th rank medicinal pills. Xiao Fan immediately agreed to this as well. Since that is the case, then many thanks, President Fa Ma. Xiao Fan directly took out a blank scroll and used his majestic soul power to carve a few short lines of words onto it. Extreme Soul. Guard the Tianling. Now and forge the soul. It could be considered a low-end version of the soul mantra, which had a great effect on elevating the soul realm. When cultivating, relaxing the mind and feeling the wandering and drifting spiritual chi around would automatically form a vortex between the eyebrows to absorb spiritual power. Although it was only an incomplete version, it was enough for Fa Ma to elevate his soul realm to the mortal realm great perfection. As for whether he could break through to the spirit realm, that would depend on future fortune. After all, not everyone could be like little Qinglin, for whom breaking through the soul realm was just a matter of overnight success. President Fa Ma respectfully took the scroll. Although he hadn't opened it yet, President Fa Ma knew that the contents within were definitely not simple. He casually found an excuse and left the middle family. The personalities of most alchemists were like this, inscrutable. Both Xiao Fan and Jia Xingtian could understand President Fa Ma being in such an anxious rush. In fact, this soul mantra was far more valuable than what President Fa Ma had offered, but Xiao Fan already intended to fully utilize the appeal of the Alchemist Guild. Paying a little more in the early stage to win over President Fa Ma's heart was not an unprofitable trade. He believed that once Fa Ma read the contents on the scroll, he would understand its value. You must know that Xiao Fan had 3 little guys to feed. The pressure of life was pressing down on this nominal 6th rank alchemist so hard that he could barely breathe. Old Jia, long time no see. As for Jia Xingtian, although the other party acted very bureaucratic and full of worldly sophistication, Xiao Fan loved dealing with such people. They lived for mutual benefit without emotional entanglements. But undeniably, from the moment the other party met Xiao Fan, he had shown enough sincerity. Xiao Fan also wanted to hear what this protector of the Imperial Palace wanted. Little friend is indeed polite. Jia Xingtian's brows unfurled. He had actually been somewhat worried that Xiao Fan would also make things difficult for him. Little friend, today this old man also brought his 2 lovely granddaughters to meet you. Hearing this, Xiao Fan looked at Jia Xingtian somewhat strangely. Such a move was just like trying to recruit Xiao Fan, a textbook operation of selling one's own granddaughters. With Jia Xingtian's permission, a knock came from the door, and Yao Fei walked in bringing 2 princesses, one older and one younger. Yer, Yue, why don't you greet the little friend? Yao Yi had obviously matured quite a bit. She gently lifted the hem of her skirt and bowed to Xiao Fan. Yao Yi greets Master Xiao. Compared to Yao Yi's maturity, Princess Xiao Yu was slightly younger, even a bit shorter than Ziyan, wearing white silk stockings that fully displayed her childish cuteness and was filled with the vibrant breath of a young girl. Great Master, you look like you aren't much older than me. Princess Xiao Yu's pretty eyes continuously sized up Xiao Fan and Ziyan watching vigilantly behind him. Yue, do not be rude. Jia Xingtian reprimanded, then explained to Xiao Fan, this girl Yue has been spoiled since childhood, please forgive her, little friend. It's fine. Could anyone be more mischievous than Ziyan? Having seen a true house-wrecking little dragon girl, he always had a different level of tolerance for little ones. Xiao Fan walked straight up to Princess Xiao Yu, bent down slightly, and carefully observed this little one whose cuteness was slightly inferior to Ziyan's. Seeing this posture, Jia Xingtian knew there was a chance. It wasn't in vain that he had inquired about Xiao Fan's information for so long, and observed that Xiao Fan's gaze always revealed extraordinary care and tenderness towards the little ones beside him. All these pieces of evidence indicated without a doubt that Xiao Fan was an extreme. He had originally only planned to bring Yao Yi to meet Xiao Fan first, but he couldn't withstand Princess Yao Yu's acting cute and coquettish before departure. Now it seemed his decision was indeed very correct. Now that Princess Xiao Yu had attracted Xiao Fan's attention, in Jia Xingtian's view, the first step had already been successful. Being probed like this by a strange person, Princess Xiao Yu felt completely bare all over, as if she had been seen through by the person in front of her. Locking gazes with Xiao Fan's eyes, Princess Xiao Yu froze in place instantly. You must know that Xiao Fan possessed the triple jade green snake flower pupils. Even though they weren't activated, that emanating soul power carrying mental disruption was not something that a little Princess Xiao Yu could look straight into. Fortunately, Xiao Fan didn't probe for long. He turned around, smiled at Josh Xingtian, and said, Princess Xiao Yu's natural aptitude is not bad, and she even possesses the aptitude to become an alchemist. Josh Xingtian of course knew this. After hesitating for a moment, he still spoke up and asked, this old man dares to be bold, could the little friend take Yue as a disciple? Seeming afraid that Xiao Fan would directly refuse, he immediately added, even if she cannot become a disciple, it is entirely acceptable for Yue to become the great master's maid. Grandpa great. Regaining her senses, Princess Xiao Yu looked in disbelief at the grandfather who loved her most, who was actually going to make her a maid to a stranger. Xiao Fan was also startled. Does your imperial family truly bear to let a princess with alchemical aptitude be my maid? Little friend makes you laugh. Over these years, the strength of the Jama Empire has been continuously declining, and this old man is merely plotting a retreat for his two lovely granddaughters. I didn't expect old Jia to be a granddaughter con too. Xiao Fan understood Josh Xingtian's worries. Josh Xingtian sighed helplessly. It's truly that the imperial family has no successors. Chapter 103, Taking an Apprentice. Xiao Fan had originally thought that Josh Xingtian's request might be to refine a break-sect pill to break through to Dozong, or perhaps to refine a Hunyuan bone sculpting pill to save the Tier 6 nether sea-flood dragon beast, the guardian divine beast of the Jama royal family. But he never expected that Josh Xingtian would actually be willing to let a princess of a nation become Xiao Fan's maid, all just to forge a path of survival for his descendants. In fact, Josh Xingtian did not have such plans before coming. After all, Princess Xiao Yu was the only member of the Jama royal family in so many years to show talent as an alchemist. However, when he faced 2 consecutive waves of soul pressure within a single day, a trace of unease arose in the heart of this old man who had guarded the imperial palace for many years. Even if he sought help to obtain the Hunyuan bone sculpting pill to save the guardian divine beast, what about the future? After he died, the Jama Empire would be completely helpless and devoid of support. By that time, the Snake People tribe, the Azumo Empire, and even the Cloud Mist sect would probably become the first to draw their blades against the Jama royal family. Without background and without strength, Josh Xingtian could not bear such consequences, which was why he wanted to forge an escape route for his 2 granddaughters. And the current Xiao Fan was the most worthy object to win over and invest in. After all, Xiao Fan was strictly chosen by Hai Bodong, and Josh Xingtian was well aware of Hai Bodong's investment vision. Taking an apprentice. Taking an apprentice was by no means a trivial matter. Compared to innate endowment and talent, Xiao Fan valued hard nature more. After all, there was a well-known story on the mainland of an alchemist being backstabbed by his own disciple. In his past life, Xiao Fan meeting Princess Xiao Yu was already something from over a dozen years later. At that time, Princess Xiao Yu could be considered quite naturally clever in this northwest region, but she carried an air of arrogance which likely had to do with her living environment. However, the current Princess Xiao Yu was like a blank sheet of paper, waiting for someone to pick up a brush and write on it. After thinking for a good while, Xiao Fan slowly spoke, let's forget about the maid. The little princess probably can't handle chores like pouring tea and serving water. Hearing this, Josh Xingtian felt a surge of joy in his heart and immediately pulled Princess Xiao Yu to bow and salute towards Xiao Fan, saying, Yue, why don't you pay respects to your master? Master. Princess Xiao Yu, still in a daze, hadn't even realized she had suddenly gained a chief master before Josh Xingtian pressed her down to bow and salute. Perhaps hastily deciding Princess Xiao Yu's fate and future like this was unfair to Yue, but looking at it from the long term, Princess Xiao Yu might rejoice in today's choice. Fortunately, Princess Xiao Yu had alchemist talent, otherwise, no matter what, Xiao Fan would not have been willing to agree. After all, Yao Yu was too big, and he couldn't handle it. However, Xiao Fan still needed to apply some pressure. It is only nominal, though. Whether you can truly become a disciple will still depend on whether Yue can persevere. Little friend is joking. If Yue can't do it, this old man will personally deal with her. Great-grandpa, Princess Xiao Yu could never have imagined that just because she insisted on coming out, the great-grandpa who cared for her so deeply had changed his mind and sold her off just like a commodity. I don't want to be. Before Princess Xiao Yu could finish her words, her mouth was covered by her older sister, Yao Yi, who stood beside her. Princess Xiao Yu's eyes widened to their limit. Seeing that even her own sister had abandoned her, tears instantly fell pitter-patter, like an abandoned puppy licking its wounds all alone. Great-grandpa doesn't want me anymore. Elder sister, woo-woo, hick. Because of her continuous sobbing, Princess Xiao Yu ended up choking, but even so, she kept muttering, you don't love me anymore. None of you love me anymore. Princess Xiao Yu crying her heart out as if a close relative had died made Xiao Fan develop a playful urge. Using a wretched tone and inflection, he said, Jie, since old Jia has entrusted Princess Xiao Yu to me, then I won't stand on ceremony. The strange laughter of the Han clan was truly as immediate in its effects as ever, no matter where it was. Princess Xiao Yu only felt a strange older brother smiling evilly toward her, making her feel like a kitten whose fate was gripped by the back of its neck by someone else. Suddenly feeling that her life was hopeless and her future dim, her eyes went black, and she collapsed to the ground. Princess Xiao Yu's body trembled unceasingly, and even after fainting, she still looked as if she were having a nightmare. Xiao Fan hadn't expected the little princess to be unable to withstand such a scare, but this could also be considered leaving a deep brand in Princess Xiao Yu's heart. At least in the future, there would be no possibility of patricide against the master. Xiao Fan definitely didn't want to train an ungrateful wolf in the future, so giving her a preemptive display of dominance was very necessary. Yue is entrusted to little friend, even if little friend wants to do something to Yue. Ahem, old Jia cannot say such things randomly. Deeply afraid that Josh Xingtian would utter something heaven-defying again, Xiao Fan hurriedly stopped him. Also, I am Yue's master, and it is impossible to. Just nominal, it doesn't matter. Josh Xingtian didn't care about anything else. Since he had already latched onto this thigh, why couldn't things be even closer? Old fellow, don't think you can talk nonsense just because you gave a few medicinal herbs. Ziyan, who hadn't spoken for a long time, suddenly chimed in. Xiao Fan's child bride can only be me. In Ziyan's firm tone, there was also an abundance of pride. But Josh Xingtian had clearly mastered the instruction manual branded by Ziyan, and successfully took out quite a few heavenly treasures and earthly resources to please this little dragon girl. Josh Xingtian didn't speak, only blindly taking out medicinal herbs. For the royal family, Josh Xingtian could still bear to pull out these medicinal herbs. Ziyan instantly lost her temper. Her mind, which had just been filled with life chi, suddenly transformed into countless sugar pills waving at her, while she bathed in an ocean of sugar pills. Having one more, doesn't seem like much. Anyway, little sister Qinglin, Ziyan had already begun her psychological struggle to persuade herself. Facts have proven that if a matter cannot be accomplished, it doesn't mean the matter is truly impossible, rather, the stakes are not high enough. In other words, more money needs to be added. Ziyan's brain was initially replaced by sugar pills. How could she still care about the matters of Xiao Fan and Princess Xiao Yu? She crammed all those medicinal herbs into her little treasury wholesale, because only things tucked into her little treasury could avoid being swindled away by Xiao Fan. That way she could exchange for even more medicinal herbs. She, Ziyan, was a clever little ghost. Xiao Kai, in Xiao Fan's arms, shook her head repeatedly upon seeing this scene. Even Xiao Yixian knew she couldn't let Xiao Fan run wild outside, yet this fellow Ziyan turned around and forgot her agreement with Xiao Yixian. If it weren't for the fact that Queen Medusa could not casually make a move, she would have long since jumped out to discipline Xiao Fan. Princess Xiao Yu was thus abandoned by her grandfather and older sister, temporarily staying by Xiao Fan's side. You, don't come over, or I'll report you to Grandpa. Princess Xiao Yu on the bed wrapped herself up like a little zongzi with a quilt, shrinking into the corner and shivering, while standing in front of her was Xiao Fan with an evil smile on his face. Just taking a simple step closer forward, Princess Xiao Yu immediately shrieked like a frightened little rabbit. GG, even if you scream until your throat breaks, no one will come to save you. Quote. Teasing this princess of the empire occasionally was quite interesting, so Xiao Fan took out quite a few medicinal liquids sealed in jade bottles from his storage ring and handed them to Princess Xiao Yu. Soak in it for at least 2 hours every day until the medicinal liquid turns transparent. Princess Xiao Yu cautiously took the jade bottle handed over by Xiao Fan, a trace of wariness still lingering in her eyes. Xiao Fan naturally noticed this, but he was not worried. Affection would grow with time, and after a while, he would be able to train this empire princess into his preferred shape. You are, after all, another disciple I adopted. Accepted, so I naturally won't treat you unfairly. This medicinal liquid is called Qi Gathering Spirit Liquid, which is modified from the Tier 4 medicinal pill, Qi Gathering Powder. It is much stronger than that useless Qi Gathering Powder, Xiao Fan explained. Tier 4, Princess Xiao Yu had originally thought it was just an ordinary medicinal bath. Being a member of the royal family, she had naturally been exposed to quite a few medicinal baths since childhood. But to so luxuriously soak her body with a Tier 4 medicinal pill every single day, such a display of wealth was simply extraordinary. Immediately, Princess Xiao Yu's attitude towards Xiao Fan underwent a massive change. This master seems pretty decent. However, before she could rejoice for long, a bucket of cold water came pouring down right after. This is the Alchemist's Encyclopedia, From Entry to Grave, written by your master's own hands. I limit you to memorizing the whole thing within a week, otherwise I will dismiss you and send you back to your grandfather. Looking at the book that was even taller than herself, Princess Xiao Yu tremblingly opened it. With just a single glance, Princess Xiao Yu felt like she was about to faint again. That page was almost entirely filled with annotations and drawings, and the cover even bore the words, elementary. It was obvious that intermediate and advanced stages would follow after this. Princess Xiao Yu could hardly help suspecting just how much free time Xiao Fan usually had to write such responsible explanations and insights for an alchemist. Xiao Fan expressed that this was nothing, it was merely a corner of Ziyan's recipe book. To ensure a balanced nutritional intake, Xiao Fan's pairing and dosage of medicinal herbs reached an almost hair-splitting level of precision. A week, it's simply impossible, Princess Xiao Yu cried out tearfully. Whether you can do it depends on your own efforts. Don't think about slacking off. To me, accepting you as a disciple was merely for the sake of your grandfather. Xiao Fan completely ignored the little fellow's wails. The crying and spoiled acts that Ziyan used to use with a 100% success rate definitely did not work when applied to Princess Xiao Yu. Princess Xiao Yu was currently only a named disciple of Xiao Fan, and the master-disciple relationship between the two was not that deep. Princess Xiao Yu was not stupid. She understood that if the status of a disciple that her grandfather had managed to bag for was ruined because of her, she wouldn't know how to face her elder sister and grandfather. Isn't it just a book? There is nothing that Princess Xiao Yu cannot do. Watching Princess Xiao Yu carefully studying page by page, Xiao Fan nodded in satisfaction. He had thought that the princess of the empire would still shirk and refuse, but unexpectedly, her hard nature wasn't bad at all. Finishing memorizing Ziyan's recipe book within a week. Of course, relying purely on rote memorization for the Alchemist's Encyclopedia was impossible. It all depended on when Princess Xiao Yu could discover the information hidden within the notes. Gurgle, gurgle. After a long while, following Xiao Fan's instructions, Princess Xiao Yu submerged her entire body into the bath barrel, continuously spitting out bubbles from her mouth as if she were emitting life chi or complaining. Executing a single task for a long time made Princess Xiao Yu feel incomparably depressed and irritable. Knowledge was like water entering her brain and then gushing right back out. After a whole day, she had only remembered that the amethyst spirit fruit was a delicious and appetizing post-meal dessert. This made Princess Xiao Yu once again sprout the intention of giving up. She understood that the task Xiao Fan gave her was simply an impossible task to complete. She even suspected whether Xiao Fan was intentionally making things difficult for her just to make her back down in the face of difficulties. But when the medicinal liquid in the bath was continuously absorbed into her body, she found her heart and spleen joyfully cheering. Her thoughts, which had previously been tangled over the meticulous pairing of various herbs, were now presented completely and clearly right before her eyes. Princess Xiao Yu instantly grasped this momentary epiphany, immersing her entire consciousness into the simulation. Xiao Fan looked at the naked little fellow inside the bath barrel and nodded in satisfaction. She's not too dull after all, being able to grasp the application of soul power so quickly. A true alchemist never relied on rote memorization to remember the countless tedious and complex entries in the Alchemist's Encyclopedia. The real method was to read with soul power, branding the attributes of the medicinal herbs into one's own soul and continuously simulating them. The soul was the key to alchemy. Even without a medicine cauldron or a physical body, alchemy could still be achieved relying solely on the soul. Xiao Fan used a heavenly flame to light the candlestick in the corner of the room, ensuring that the little fellow would not freeze before leaving the room. For a long time to come, Princess Xiao Yu would be immersed in the ocean of knowledge. In the process of tempering her mental energy over and over again, Princess Xiao Yu's soul power would also achieve a qualitative leap. Seeing Xiao Fan return, little Qinglin hurriedly ran to Xiao Fan's side and said out of breath, Brother, something has happened to big sister Ziyan. What? Xiao Fan's spirit realm soul swept across the entire imperial capital in a flash, discovering that Ziyan was merely inside her room, so he picked up little Qinglin and came to Ziyan's side. The experts of the imperial capital were all stunned, and even Protector Wu, who had just left the imperial capital, was also stunned. Is this fellow provoking me? When he saw Ziyan wrapped inside a huge purple cocoon, Xiao Fan understood what had happened. Xiao Fan supported his forehead and complained, what a glutton. Brother, is big sister Ziyan alright? Little Qinglin anxiously asked about Ziyan's condition. Xiao Fan touched the little fellow's two tight green ponytails and replied with a concerned tone, Xiao Yan is fine, she just ate too much and is about to advance. Advance. Little Qinglin looked at Xiao Fan in confusion. Your big sister Ziyan's true form is a demonic beast. She accidentally ingested a human transformation grass, and this time she absorbed too much energy, which led to her advancing. After a while, your big sister Ziyan will be able to come out. Xiao Fan looked at the jars and cans scattered all over the ground and the faint smell of blood lingering in the air. Xiao Fan knew that there was a high probability Ziyan had swallowed all those heavenly treasures and heavenly demon phoenix blood she had just gotten her hands on. How reckless. Xiao Fan couldn't help feeling some life chi. Ziyan's advancement process was extremely dangerous and couldn't withstand external stimuli. If an accident happened, Xiao Fan would truly be heartbroken to death. Will Big Sister Xian become even more powerful then? Little Qinglin didn't feel scared at all upon knowing that Xian's true form was a demonic beast. That goes without saying. Taking your grandpa high as a unit of measurement is about 10 elder highs. Wow, Big Sister Xian is so amazing. Little Qinglin covered her wide-open little mouth, letting out an exclamation. ... In the days that followed, Xiao Fan remained stationed by Xian's side without leaving her for even a step. Externally, it was announced that Xiao Fan was in seclusion, while from time to time he guided little Princess Xiao Yu, who was already obsessed with alchemy. Even Fa Ma visited several times in succession without managing to catch a glimpse of Xiao Fan. Brother Xiao, the Nolan family has sent you an invitation card. Do you want to take a look? Hai Bodong chatted with Xiao Fan with his arm draped around his shoulders as usual, while Xiao Fan's gaze would occasionally look at the slowly throbbing cocoon. The Nolan family. It's called an invitation card, celebrating the safe return of Nolan Jia. Xiao Fan was speechless for a moment. Is this little matter even worth celebrating? Only then did Hai Bodong reveal another truth. They say that the new sect master of the Cloud Mist sect, Yan Yan, will also be present, and the specific information hasn't spread out yet. Yan Yan. Quote. Chapter 105 Flame Control Formula. Whenever he thought of that silly woman, Xiao Fan couldn't help but get a headache. To be honest, he didn't want to deal with the damned mess of the Cloud Mist sect, but whenever he thought about the guys from the Hall of Souls lurking around him, Xiao Fan always felt somewhat uneasy. The Hall of Souls was like a group of dog skin plasters, drive one group away and another would come, and their strength grew stronger each time. Being targeted by them was definitely not a good thing. For the current Xiao Fan, he was still intentionally or unintentionally avoiding them. If they truly wanted to eradicate the members of the Hall of Souls in this northwest continent, without the strength of a Dozong, it would probably be impossible. I'd better give that silly woman a reminder. Xiao Fan wasn't sure if the Hall of Souls would choose to make a move against the Cloud Mist sect at this time, nor was he sure if his changes would also cause the timeline in his memories to shift. After thinking for a moment, Xiao Fan still accepted the invitation. Elder Hai, I'll accept the invitation. As for whether I can attend the banquet, it depends on whether my little fellow can wake up. Hai Bodong nodded to show he understood. I will notify the Nolan family. That's right, Elder Hai, how is the collection of medicinal materials for your Wangji pill going? Seeing that Hai Bodong hadn't prepared the medicinal materials for the Wangji pill after such a long time, Xiao Fan couldn't help feeling a bit strange. I've only managed to collect 2 portions of medicinal materials. There was usually an unwritten rule among alchemists on the continent. When asking an alchemist to refine pills, one must prepare at least 3 portions of medicinal materials. Regardless of success or failure, these 3 portions belong to the alchemist. That's enough, Elder Hai. I'll help you refine it these next few days. Hai Bodong asked curiously, Brother Xiao, what is your success rate? Xiao Fan stretched out a finger and waved it in front of Hai Bodong. 10%. Absolute success. Xiao Fan was already at the Spirit Realm Soul stage, and with no interference from Xiao Yaner, it would be difficult for him to even blow up the cauldron if he wanted to. Hai Bodong was shocked and looked at Xiao Fan in disbelief. Brother Xiao, stop joking. The Wangji pill is a tier 6 medicinal pill, after all. Elder Hai, when have you ever seen me deceive you? Hai Bodong thought about it carefully for a moment and found that Xiao Fan indeed never spoke without certainty, so he smiled and said, then this old man will quietly await Brother Xiao's good news. Hai Bodong handed the 2 collected portions of medicinal materials to Xiao Fan. According to their transaction, Xiao Fan would first refine a Wangji pill for Hai Bodong. Thinking that the Wangji pill he had been yearning for was about to be in his hands, coupled with the fact that he had been cultivating an earth-rank cultivation technique for a long time, Hai Bodong felt he could do it again. Even his fear of Queen Medusa was weakened quite a bit because of this. After Hai Bodong left, Xiao Fan looked at the giant cocoon that still showed no movement and muttered, you really are something. What's the point of being in such a rush to grow up? Aside from being able to eat even more, the grown-up Xian didn't seem to have any other advantages. In Xiao Fan's heart, she was still cute when small. Brother. Seeing little Qinglin sitting as usual beside his medicine cauldron, quietly waiting for Xiao Fan to come over and perform alchemy, Xiao Fan felt a sudden sense of relief in his heart. Little Qinglin is still the obedient one, unlike a certain gluttonous and lazy little dragon girl who stirs up trouble everywhere. When he finished saying these words, the giant cocoon behind Xiao Fan visibly trembled a few times. Suddenly, Princess Xiao Yu burst right through the door frame slamming against the wall with a loud noise. Little Qinglin and Xiao Fan had evidently already grown accustomed to such sounds. Princess Xiao Yu, holding thick books, sat without hesitation into Xiao Fan's cross lap, pointed to a spot on the book, and asked, Master, I can't do this condensing of real fire. Not only did Xiao Fan not criticize such behavior from his rebellious disciple, but he even tacitly allowed it. Although Princess Xiao Yu had failed to pass Xiao Fan's test, Xiao Fan still took Princess Xiao Yu in as his disciple. Theory was not as fast as practice. A small cluster of cyan gold flames appeared in the palm of Xiao Fan's hand. Under Xiao Fan's control, the flames surged upward and painted a small cyan gold dragon in the air like a paintbrush. Under Princess Xiao Yu's amazed gaze, the small dragon suddenly spat a stream of flame breath towards Princess Xiao Yu, scaring Princess Xiao Yu into squeezing even closer against Xiao Fan. The moment the breath was about to touch Princess Xiao Yu, it burst open like fireworks. After finishing the demonstration, Xiao Fan said to Princess Xiao Yu, naturally, there are techniques to fire control. A good alchemist legacy naturally has a special flame control formula passed down. This superb fire control technique instantly piqued Princess Xiao Yu's interest, and she immediately grasped the main point Xiao Fan mentioned, Master, teach me quickly. With you being merely a 3-star Do practitioner, you still want to learn the flame control formula. Then wouldn't it be fine if Master refined some pills for me to boost my strength? Princess Xiao Yu replied playfully. You really are someone who expects everything handed to you on a silver platter. Xiao Fan patted Princess Xiao Yu's head in exasperation. Master Tilda. My dearest Master Tilda. Kiss. Before Princess Xiao Yu could finish acting spoiled, Xiao Fan used his hand to press against Princess Xiao Yu's mouth. Stop right there, you are not allowed to say these things in the future. Xiao Fan's expression was somewhat serious, which stunned Princess Xiao Yu. Although Xiao Fan was very strict with Princess Xiao Yu and always looked fierce, Princess Xiao Yu knew this was just an act put on by Xiao Fan. But this time Xiao Fan was clearly carrying anger. Princess Xiao Yu was still young and asked without reservation, Master, why? Because. Love is very heavy, do not say it so easily. Xiao Fan thought about it and seemed to feel it was inappropriate. He looked at Princess Xiao Yu, who was staring with her innocent, big eyes, and spoke again, you are still young and don't understand these things. When your strength reaches the 7-star Do practitioner level, Master will teach you the flame control formula. Really? Sure enough, obscure and difficult principles were still a bit too hard for Princess Xiao Yu. However, ignorance was bliss, so Xiao Fan continued along with Princess Xiao Yu's words, of course, Master never lies to you. Hee hee, thank you, Master. Princess Xiao Yu took the opportunity to rub against Xiao Fan's arms like an obedient kitten. Little Qinglin pouted her small lips as she looked at Princess Xiao Yu in Xiao Fan's arms. Clearly that place is supposed to be my spot. Since you're here, it just so happens that Master will show you the refinement of a Tier 6 medicinal pill. Xiao Fan thought that since he was going to refine a Tier 6 medicinal pill anyway, it would also be a good opportunity to let Princess Xiao Yu widen her horizons. A mere Tier 6 medicinal pill was a piece of cake. Of course, there was another prerequisite for making a Tier 6 medicinal pill, which naturally could not do without the source of all evil, Xian's dragon saliva. Watching Xiao Fan swallow a mouthful of strange liquid, Princess Xiao Yu's curiosity flared up again, and she asked full of curiosity, Master, is this also a step in alchemy? What is that liquid? Why haven't I ever seen Master mention it in the Alchemist's Encyclopedia? Xiao Fan almost swallowed the dragon saliva in his mouth in one gulp, and could only explain via voice transmission, this is Master's unique secret skill, I will teach it to you in the future. AOZ, Princess Xiao Yu obediently responded, but in her heart, she had already remembered the taste and color of that liquid. Originally, Xiao Fan thought the process of refining the Wangji pill would be easy and relaxed, but he still underestimated Princess Xiao Yu's curiosity. Master, is this a heavenly flame? Master, how much longer will you take? Master, why has this medicinal material turned black? Doesn't the book say it should be pure and colorless? Bang. Master, did you blow up the cauldron? Quote. Chapter 106 Wangji pill. Master, is this the legendary cauldron explosion? Princess Xiao Yu asked back and forth with her mouth wide open, completely unaware of the even more embarrassed Xiao Fan. Xiao Fan naturally wouldn't admit it, and fortunately, only some unimportant medicinal herbs were burned, and Xiao Fan had alternative medicinal herbs as substitutes. However, this was still a very embarrassing matter, so he could only speak vaguely. That was a wrong demonstration just now. Alchemists must keep their minds calm, otherwise it will be just like your master. Princess Xiao Yu didn't understand so many twists and turns, so she could only nod perfunctorily. Xiao Fan didn't know why his state of mind could always be influenced by the little ones, when it clearly wasn't like this before. Calming his complicated emotions, Xiao Fan began to refine medicinal pills again. Little Qinglin couldn't endure the long wait, so her little head leaned against Xiao Fan's body and slowly fell asleep. Only Princess Xiao Yu was so curious about every process of alchemy, tirelessly asking questions. Xiao Fan was also very patient. Anyway, refining a 6th rank medicinal pill was only a tiny bit harder than a sugar pill for him. Master, are you going to refine 2 Wangji pills at once? Of course. Princess Xiao Yu tilted her head up to look at Xiao Fan's breathtakingly handsome face, suddenly feeling her cheeks burning hot. She was young, but she wasn't completely clueless. Ever since her grandfather and elder sister sold her to Xiao Fan, she had understood her mission. She had thought the other party would ignore her or casually impart some knowledge. To put it cruelly, she was merely a bargaining chip used by the Jama royal family to tie Xiao Fan down, and she was just a chess piece. Yet, Xiao Fan's careful guidance over these past few days unexpectedly caused Princess Xiao Yu's heart to give rise to different thoughts. This master, who looked fierce on the surface and always liked to scare her, was actually very gentle inside. She knew she was foolish and couldn't compare to those geniuses, but Master only briefly criticized her a few times, gave her the best medicinal bath, and even imparted his alchemy techniques to her without reservation. A 6th rank alchemist could make countless Douwang and Douhuang experts follow him, and the face of the Jama royal family was probably just so-so. Princess Xiao Yu was crystal clear about all this in her heart. Yet even so, Xiao Fan still took her in as a disciple. Princess Xiao Yu had originally thought that what the other party valued was her, but when she saw several people around Xiao Fan, those little calculations in her heart were also shattered. UAA, don't lose focus. Next is the pill condensation process. Xiao Fan controlled the movement of the flames and the continuous fusion of the medicinal herbs. Master, he is really a very good person. Princess Xiao Yu looked at the flames constantly bursting forth from the medicine cauldron, and for a moment, she became mesmerized. High-rank ingredients naturally required the most elegant cooking techniques. Under the manipulation of our Master Xiao, the perfectly round medicinal pill gradually began to take shape. Princess Xiao Yu made up her mind. Even if she couldn't compare to geniuses, she would work diligently to catch up to Xiao Fan and not cause her master to lose face, because she knew she was Master's only disciple. UAA will work hard too. Quote. Elder Hai, may I ask what Master Xiao has decided? Nalanjia brought Nalan Su to the middle family, and under Yafei's guidance, went to meet Hai Bodong. Upon seeing Hai Bodong, Nalanjia warmly stepped forward to greet him. The pain brought by the branding poison seemed to have vanished long ago, and Nalanjia's current mental state was much better. On the other hand, Nalan Su, who was following beside Nalanjia, had a dark face, and his mental state also appeared decadent. The invitation has been sent. As for whether little brother Xiao will come or not, it's unknown. Hai Bodong half lay on the chair, narrowing his eyes without giving too much explanation. Seeing this, Nalanjia's expression turned somewhat ugly, and he glanced at Nalan Su beside him. The anger in his eyes was self-evident. Failing to see Xiao Fan for the time being, Nalanjia didn't know how to handle the situation, and after a good while, he dragged Nalan Su away from the middle family. Look at the good deed you've done. Such a good son-in-law won't even see us now. He is the son-in-law of the Nalan family, but now he is in the middle family. Besides, yesterday I heard that both the royal family and the alchemist guild have no small connections with Xiao Fan. I shouldn't have gone to this Azumo Empire. The more Nalanjia thought about it, the more regretful he became. Even if he didn't know the other party's identity, based solely on the other party being a tier 4 alchemist, Nalanjia could never have allowed Nalan Yanran to provoke him casually. Nalan Yanran was Yun Yun's disciple now, so she couldn't be scolded, but his own son was different. He should still be properly punished upon returning. Not long after the two left, Nalanjia's footsteps suddenly paused, and he looked towards the direction of the middle family with a shocked expression. Father, what's wrong? Nalan Su asked. Shut up. The more Nalanjia looked at him, the angrier he became, and he kicked him with a kick of fatherly love, making Nalan Su look disheveled. Hai Bodong was originally lazily passing his days, but in an instant, he opened his eyes. Hai Bodong laughed wildly, and with a start, he flew towards the room where Xiao Fan was located. Ha, it's done. When a 6th rank medicinal pill was successfully formed, it would be accompanied by energy ripple impacts, and the energy impact caused by Xiao Fan forming 2 Wangji pills at once would be even more massive. Xiao Fan used his soul power to shroud Princess Xiao Yu and little Qinglin to avoid being affected by this energy impact. In the Alchemist Guild, Fa Ma, who was still immersed in the exquisite details of the soul mantra, also let out an exclamation, this old man is deeply ashamed of my own inferiority. A 6th rank medicinal pill had taken shape, and in the capital, besides Xiao Fan, there was probably no one else. This was also the reason why President Fa Ma was so certain. A 6th rank medicinal pill. It really makes one's heart yearn for it. Hesitating for a moment, President Fa Ma temporarily put aside the idea of cultivating and immediately set off for the middle family. In the Jama Royal Palace, the phenomenon of Xiao Fan successfully refining a 6th rank medicinal pill naturally was Great-grandfather, are you saying Master Xiao successfully refined a 6th-rank medicinal pill? Yao Yi didn't have as keen a perception as Jia Xingtian, and could only learn of it from her great-grandfather's mouth. I'm afraid it's more than that. This energy ripple. Jia Xingtian stroked the beard on his chin as if pondering something. Yer, tidy up, you haven't seen Yue in a long time either. Seeing Princess Yao Yu was fake, the granddaughter sent out was like poured out water, and Jia Xingtian's real purpose was still to meet Xiao Fan. The moment the medicinal pill formed, Xiao Kai and Xiao Fan's sleeve was already fully prepared, shooting directly toward one of the Wang Ji pills like a fatal attack launched by a poisonous snake. With quick eyes and swift hands, Xiao Fan grabbed the tip of Xiao Kai's tail, but the smooth snake scale still caused Xiao Fan to grab nothing. However, Xiao Fan was also well prepared. Just when Xiao Kai was less than an inch away from the medicinal pill, an invisible barrier blocked Xiao Kai away. Thud, a muffled impact sound came over. Hiss, hiss, Xiao Kai curled up her body and raised her head, her snake pupils staring fixedly at Xiao Fan. Without needing a translation, Xiao Fan knew Xiao Kai was cursing filthily. Do you think I would fall for the same trick twice? This is not prepared for you. Xiao Fan put the 2 Wang Ji pills into a jade bottle, and then looked at the huge purple cocoon that still had no movement. Quote. Chapter 107, Breaking the Cocoon. Master, why can you produce 2 pills in one batch? I want to learn too. Princess Yao Yu watched Xiao Fan's fluid, cloud-like movements, nearly pressing her whole body against him. Having woken up, little Qinglin finally reached her limit. She reached out and grabbed Princess Yao Yu, intending to pull her off Xiao Fan. Hey. Princess Yao Yu clung tightly to Xiao Fan, swearing not to let go. That is my spot. Qinglin was uncharacteristically angry, using all her strength to try and pull Princess Yao Yu away. But Qinglin had only just experienced the awakening of her triple jade green snake flower pupils and had not yet fully received the doji feedback from them. Without activating her triple jade green snake flower pupils, how could she pull away the 3-star do practitioner, Princess Yao Yu? Master, let me sit here. Sit. The group outside, about to push the door open, were all stunned. Hai Bodong also turned his gaze toward Jia Xingtian. Ahem, since they are busy, let's wait a while. Jia Xingtian's face was blank, his fingers trembling slightly. What on earth was his precious granddaughter doing? And looking at the situation, it wasn't just his precious granddaughter, it seemed like they were competing for favor. F.A. Ma, this boy has the demeanor I had in my youth. Seeing that Qinglin couldn't do anything to her, Princess Yao Yu became even more brazen. She said in a coquettish voice, Master, little sister Qinglin is so fierce, unlike me. I only know how to care for Master Tilda. Alright, Princess Yao Yu, stop causing trouble. Your grandfather has arrived. Ha, Princess Yao Yu turned her head and saw Xiao Fan open the door. Standing outside were many of the imperial capital's powerhouses that Princess Yao Yu had heard of since childhood. Seeing the door open, Jia Xingtian immediately looked at Princess Yao Yu, who was hanging on Xiao Fan. With just one glance, this man over 100 years old felt a complex mix of emotions. It wasn't sadness, let alone anger, there was even a hint of secret joy in his heart. But seeing his own granddaughter throwing herself at him like this, Jia Xingtian's mouth couldn't help but twitch. Yao Yi, on the other hand, rarely saw her sister get this close to anyone other than herself and their grandfather. She mimicked Princess Yao Yu and called out, unlike me Tilda, I only know how to care for my little sister Tilda. Princess Yao Yu's pretty face flushed red. She wanted to find a hole to crawl into, but there was nowhere to hide besides staying close to Xiao Fan, so she could only bury her head deeper. Qinglin frowned. Just as she was about to speak, she found herself held by a strong, large hand, and her mind suddenly went blank. Everyone, if you have something to discuss, let's talk in a while. Xiao Fan patted Princess Yao Yu's head and smiled at the group. Indeed, Master Xiao has just finished refining a rank 6 medicinal pill, he should rest for a moment. Jia Xingtian couldn't afford to lose face, so he pulled the others away. Old Hai, your Wang Ji pill. Xiao Fan shot out a jade bottle. Hai Bodong caught it steadily and immediately hid it away. Looking at the burning gazes of Nalanjia and Fa Ma, Hai Bodong said, don't even think about it, there's none for you. Old Hai, don't be so distant. How about this? I'm willing to refine a medicinal pill for you for free, as long as you let me take a look at that Wang Ji pill. Fa Ma spoke up. Being able to see a rank 6 medicinal pill might yield many insights, even he wanted to take Xiao Fan as his master. Such a temptation would have been accepted without hesitation by the old Hai Bodong, but now, Hai Bodong looked at Xiao Fan inside the room. Old Hai, this Wang Ji pill belongs to you. Xiao Fan knew Hai Bodong's concerns and spoke up to dispel them. Many thanks, little brother Xiao. Hai Bodong left happily with the group. Nalanjia seemed to have something more to say, but could only follow the main group away. After finally getting Princess Yao Yu to leave, Xiao Fan came to the giant cocoon and whispered, Xiao Yaner, I've refined something delicious for you. If you don't wake up, I'm going to feed it to Xiao Kai. The giant cocoon indeed reacted, wriggling continuously as if something was about to break out. Brother, is Sister Ziyan about to finish her evolution? Qinglin was held in Xiao Fan's arms, waiting together for Ziyan to break out of the cocoon. It should be soon. Xiao Yaner is really not worry-free, she actually fell asleep inside. Xiao Fan had long discovered that Ziyan had completed her evolution, but he didn't know why she hadn't broken out of the cocoon yet. Just now, when he got close, he actually heard bursts of snoring from inside. But thinking about it, this was exactly the kind of thing Ziyan would do. A purple light flashed, and the silk strands wrapped around the giant cocoon fell off one by one. Xiao Fan immediately covered Qinglin's eyes. Brother, what's wrong? Qinglin asked, puzzled. Simply covering her eyes didn't affect Qinglin much, she had already gotten used to this kind of life. Dazedly, Qinglin sensed the awakening of Sister Ziyan. Your sister Ziyan is naked. Xiao Fan thought about it, it wasn't that Qinglin couldn't see Ziyan like this, but it was better to see less of this blood-pumping scene. Then why can brother see? Ah, because your sister Ziyan is my child bride, whom I will marry in the future. Qinglin seemed to have thought of something and asked excitedly, then brother has also seen my body, does that mean you will marry Qinglin in the future too? Yes, no, Xiao Fan realized he had been led into a trap by Qinglin without realizing it. Because brother was only helping Qinglin check her body, you are my little sister. Xiao Fan felt it necessary to correct these strange thoughts of Qinglin. Just a little sister, Qinglin suddenly asked in return. Xiao Fan didn't know how to answer this question. After thinking for a moment, he replied, when Qinglin grows up, brother will answer you. Xiao Fan discovered a slippery cannonball rushing straight at him. Xiao Fan put Qinglin down, and after being hit by the cannonball, he retreated dozens of steps before barely stopping. He squeezed the little one who had pounced on him, but suddenly felt that the texture wasn't right. Had her small buns grown into big meat buns? Only then did he realize that the person in front of him was not the adorable little dragon girl, but clearly a dragon emperor with a hint of desire. Seeing Xiao Fan's shocked expression, Ziyan's lips curled up. Her white, jade-like skin pressed tightly against Xiao Fan, and with a light tap of her jade hand, her exquisite, live body pushed Xiao Fan down. Xiao Fanzi, how does the grown-up me feel to touch? Seeming to want to completely corrupt Xiao Fan, Ziyan exhaled dragon breath with a scorching temperature near Xiao Fan's ear, her sharp, slow fingernails tracing across Xiao Fan's chest, stopping at his vigorously beating heart. Xiao Fan turned his head aside, not daring to look at Ziyan. He had to admit that the budding little dragon girl really made him unable to resist. Xiao Yanner, get up first. There was no threatening tone, only his earlobes which had turned thoroughly red. Ziyan only felt that her true nature had been completely teased out by Xiao Fan. Xiao Fanzi, I heard you just admit my status as your child bride. Now it's time to carry it out. Quote. Chapter 108, The Little Ones Who Are Learning Bad Habits. Xiao Yanner. I'm not small anymore, oh. Ziyan suddenly exerted force with both hands. Under her monstrous strength, Xiao Fan's hands were clamped by Ziyan with one hand, lifted high, and brought above his head. Ziyan licked her dry lips, her nimble tongue half protruding, and looked with great interest at Xiao Fan, who was pinned beneath her and unable to move. Big sister Ziyan, she, little Qinglin felt whirlwinds appearing in her eyes, and her brain became dizzy. Is this what needs to be done after getting married? Her cheeks became burning hot, and she could only cover her eyes with her small hands. However, with her keen hearing, she could not only hear her own accelerating heartbeat, but also the increasingly rapid breathing of both Xiao Fan and Ziyan. Little Qinglin's legs felt a bit weak. Clearly knowing that she shouldn't be standing here, her legs felt as if they had been nailed in place, unable to move a single fraction of an inch. Her slender and long legs rubbed back and forth, and Ziyan was also constantly plucking at Xiao Fan's heartstrings. Xiao Yanner, I am going to release life chi. As soon as the words left his mouth, Xiao Fan regretted them. Looking at Ziyan, who not only didn't restrain herself but became even more unbridled, Xiao Fan felt that he might meet his end here today. Xiao Fan. Am I good looking now that I've grown up? Without waiting for Xiao Fan to reply, Ziyan's cherry red lips slowly moved downwards, her eyes flickering with passionate firelight. This time, Xiao Fan was no longer that cold body from before, but a living person with temperature and emotions. Perhaps it's a bit small, but let me, Ziyan, steal a bite once more. Xiao Fan had completely resigned himself to his fate. Ziyan's love was too intense. Clearly, not long ago, they were just in a relationship between a feeder and a pet, yet he never expected that he himself would go from being the feeder to becoming the food. Sigh, I only hope I won't have to lie in bed for another 3 days this time. But just as Ziyan was about to succeed, a sudden change occurred. Ziyan's body emitted a burst of purple light, and her original meat buns reverted back to small steamed dumplings. Woo, I was clearly about to succeed. Ziyan was extremely regretful, patting her unremarkable chest with life chi, and felt nothing wrong with sitting naked on top of Xiao Fan. No, today I must handle Xiao Fanzi. Finished speaking, Ziyan took out a jade bottle glowing with 7-colored light from her personal storage ring. Xiao Fan recognized at a glance that this was medicine concocted by Xiao Yan, and judging by its luster, it was clearly an extraordinary item. After speaking, Ziyan opened the jade bottle and was about to drink it all in one gulp, but in her small form, she could no longer wantonly squeeze Xiao Fan like before. With quick eyes and swift hands, Xiao Fan snatched the jade bottle away and stored it in his storage ring. Xiao Fan. Ziyan reached out her tender little hands, baring her teeth and brandishing her claws continuously. Mist welled up in her eyes, and her voice trembled as she said, clearly we were just a tiny bit away. Darn transformation grass. Ouch. A solid rap knocked firmly onto Ziyan's already not so bright head. Even after doing such a rebellious thing, Xiao Fan did not blame Ziyan. Instead, he took out a purple dress he had prepared long ago from his own storage ring and hastily slipped it onto Ziyan. Looking at Ziyan, who had dressed herself again, Xiao Fan sighed and said, you are not allowed to do this next time. Like what? Ziyan hummed, burying her head between her arms, and sat pouting on Xiao Fan. What do you think? Another rap landed on her head. Xiao Fan thought of something else and snatched the storage ring off Ziyan. But when he saw the contents inside the storage ring, Xiao Fan's eyes widened in shock. Looking at the mountain-high forbidden medicine, Xiao Fan couldn't help but complain, Shaner, just how much do you want your husband to die? This amount of medicine was probably something only the physical body of the Void Ancient Dragon clan could withstand. Fortunately, he reacted in time, otherwise, let alone 3 days, he would have had to lie in bed for the rest of his life. Ziyan whistled, her fingers continuously drawing circles in front of her chest, putting on an expression as if it had nothing to do with her. Xiao Yanner. Shouldn't you explain this to me? Xiao Fan, I'm hungry. Ziyan pointed at her round little belly, cooperating with a gurgling sound. Clearly knowing that Ziyan was changing the subject, Xiao Fan pinched Ziyan's even more supple and hydrated cheeks after her evolution. You guy. Xiao Fan stuffed the other Wangji pill into Ziyan's small mouth. I prepared it for you long ago. Rest assured, I added a bit of extra seasoning, it's sweet. Ziyan cupped Xiao Fan's face and gave him a loud smack on the cheek. Smiling, she chewed and said, love you, Xiao Fan. Got it, hurry up and refine it. Xiao Fan poked the little one's stuffed cheeks a few times. Unlike others who needed to cross their legs and meticulously refine it, the stomach of a Void Ancient Dragon could step by step devour the energy contained within the Wangji pill. Having eaten her fill, Ziyan leaned back against Xiao Fan's back and fell fast asleep just like that. Only Xiao Fan's back could allow Ziyan to sleep so carefree and so peacefully. Seeing that little Qinglin was still stunned in place, Xiao Fan walked forward and patted her head, but little Qinglin jumped away as if she had been electrocuted. Bridge, brother, Qinglin is still young. Qinglin is scared. Little Qinglin spoke stutteringly. The scene from just moments ago had given the little one a huge impact. Feeling that these words would hurt the heart of the brother who loved her, she hurriedly explained, Qinglin will grow up, Qinglin will work hard. Xiao Fan's footsteps paused, and regret welled up in his heart. I told you it was a bad idea to let little Qinglin learn random things. Entrusting little Qinglin to Ziyan to raise was undoubtedly the most wrong decision Xiao Fan had ever made. Qinglin, don't think random thoughts. Xiao Fan didn't know where to start explaining, so he could only keep stroking little Qinglin's twin ponytails. Hearing Xiao Fan's answer, little Qinglin only felt an emptiness in her heart. She didn't like her brother's answer. This was also little Qinglin's first time having her own thoughts, and her first rebellion after seeing the world. Brother. Little Qinglin grabbed Xiao Fan's 2 hands. Her strength wasn't big, but the familiar action immediately reminded Xiao Fan of the bad memories caused by Ziyan just moments ago. Qinglin, Xiao Fan looked at the little one's earnest gaze, and the words he wanted to say got forcefully stuck in his throat. Brother, everything about Qinglin belongs to brother. It was brother who gave Qinglin the feeling of home. But Qinglin doesn't want to just be brother's younger sister anymore. Qinglin wants to be a little greedy. Can I, brother? Little Qinglin's voice grew softer and softer, and her head lowered further and further, so soft that one couldn't hear clearly without getting close, and low enough that she was almost turning into a little ostrich. Xiao Fan knew that this was probably the self-abasing girl's first time expressing her feelings. His previous ambiguous answer would definitely have hurt the little one's heart. Xiao Fan squatted down, looked into little Qinglin's eyes, and said, "Of course you can, little Qinglin." "Really, brother?" Xiao Fan chose to prove it with action, gently kissing the little one's forehead. "When you grow up, come find me to cash in on this kiss." Her grip on Xiao Fan's hand became increasingly forceful, and a blush completely dyed her entire body following that kiss. The world was vast, but only the embrace of the brother before her was her true belonging. Then brother will wait for Qinglin to grow up. Little Qinglin revealed a brilliant smile, holding Xiao Fan's hand and unwilling to let go. Looking at the wobbling little Qinglin whose happiness was beyond words, Xiao Fan felt a sense of emotion in his heart. Whether it's Qinglin or little Qinglin, I can be greedy too. Quote. Stinky little brother, you really know how to cause trouble for your sister. Yafei complained as she swayed her graceful figure and approached Xiao Fan, having been hastily pushed to the front lines without even notifying her when facing the capital's experts consecutively. A resentful little gaze stared straight at Xiao Fan. Ahem, it's because Sister Yafei is capable. Xiao Fan laughed dryly, attempting to brush it off. HMPH, little bastard. Yafei let out a cold huff. Ziyan's snoring snot bubble popped in response, and she looked at the scene before her in bewilderment. One must know that Ziyan had a bad temper when waking up, and due to her breakthrough to Dohuang expert, Ziyan could engage her own strength for a moment, letting out her oppressive aura toward the surrounding Dohuang experts. The few of them faced a formidable enemy. It was the feeling of truly facing an ancient vicious beast. The few looked at each other, and finally all cast their gazes uniformly at Ziyan, who was stretching lazily on Xiao Fan's back. The few who were unclear about the situation were still determining whether the oppressive aura was caused by this little fellow in front of them, leaving only Jia Xingtian and Nalanjia to silently swallow a mouthful of saliva. It's even more terrifying than last time. Nalanjia's Ziyan phobia deepened by a few more points in his heart, while Jia Xingtian was even more astonished. The last time he saw this little fellow, she only had Dohuang strength, but meeting again today, she had already achieved a breakthrough to the Dohuang expert level. Furthermore, observing Ziyan's aura, it was still continuously strengthening, endlessly pouring energy into her body like a whirlpool. Great-grandfather. Princess Xiao Yu changed into a new set of clothes and rushed in. Her previous set of garments had somehow been soaked through long ago, leaving her no choice but to change into a new one. Yue, how do you feel following Master Xiao these few days? Jia Xingtian probed for information. Princess Xiao Yu hadn't sent any news these past few days, acting just like she had run away from home. Even though her great-grandfather and sister had sold her out, these past few days she felt it was much more interesting than staying in the imperial palace. Jia Xingtian happily picked up little Princess Xiao Yu. What he had done was somewhat unfair to this little princess. He had originally thought that becoming a princess meant being born with a golden finger, but he hadn't expected that the pressure of war would still implicate Princess Xiao Yu. He could only blame his own inadequate strength as a grandfather for failing to give Princess Xiao Yu a good life. Master is very good to me, much better than great-grandfather. Princess Xiao Yu said with a happy expression. Jia Xingtian felt as though he heard the sound of his heart shattering into pieces. He had originally thought Princess Xiao Yu would be homesick, but looking at her appearance now, she was clearly living even better than he had imagined. Princess Xiao Yu had followed Xiao Fan for less than a month, yet why did it feel like Xiao Fan had not only taken her body, but also hooked away her heart? If it weren't for the fact that he couldn't beat him, if it weren't for the fact that the other party was an alchemist capable of refining 6th-rank medicinal pills, if it weren't for the fact that the other party had an unfathomable master, coupled with a little fellow even cuter than Princess Xiao Yu, Jia Xingtian. Forget it, he might as well think about what to ask Xiao Fan for as a dowry. Fa Ma was so shocked by these words that he stood up. What, old Jia, you're not playing fair here. What does Guild President Fa Ma mean by these words? Jia Xingtian looked at Fa Ma with a smile, resembling an old fox. You're bullying this old man just because I don't have a granddaughter. I wouldn't even dare to think about taking him as a master, you fellow. To actually use. Fa Ma didn't mention the rest. He was also a cunning old fox. Even if he couldn't see through Xiao Fan's strength, he could see the facts right before his eyes clearly. Xiao Fan's aesthetic. Ever since Fa Ma cultivated that volume of soul cultivation technique, he had been unstoppable. Now, he was already able to skillfully master the 6th-rank elementary alchemy, but precisely because of this, he could increasingly feel the power of that soul technique of Xiao Fan's. He, Fa Ma, hadn't even had the nerve to bring up becoming a disciple, yet you, Jia Xingtian, took advantage of having a cute granddaughter to strike first. Traitor, rebellious villain, bullying this old man for having no children, bullying this lonely old man. Infuriating, the medicine cauldron above Fa Ma's head began to sway precariously because of this. Master. Princess Xiao Yu trotted over to Xiao Fan's side, simultaneously noticing Ziyan on Xiao Fan's back. Looking at Ziyan, who was as cute as an exquisite doll, she compared herself with Ziyan in her heart, only to find that she actually fell short in every aspect. Princess Xiao Yu lifted the hem of her skirt and bowed respectfully toward Xiao Fan, quite possessing the bearing of a young lady from a distinguished family. Xiao Fan knocked her right on the head. Ouch, Princess Xiao Yu felt her head buzzing. Clearly, she hadn't done anything wrong at all. Your master is right here, why are you acting so reserved? Remember that strength is supreme in this world, you do not need to bow your head to anyone. Not even to master. If you dare to be a rebellious disciple who commits offenses against her master, I'll deal with you first. Xiao Fan couldn't believe that Princess Xiao Yu's first thought was actually to become a rebellious disciple. He really didn't know who on earth had instilled these thoughts into the people around him. Princess Xiao Yu instantly lost her previous bearing, crawling onto Xiao Fan's body like a limp little kitten. It's not bad to end up with such a cheap master. Sister, I will make you regret this. She didn't know how Princess Xiao Yu, who was timid and fearful just a few days ago, suddenly gave off the vibe of a vicious female supporting character right now. Master Xiao. Fa Ma collapsed with a thump in front of Xiao Fan, speaking to Xiao Fan with snot and tears streaming down his face. Master Xiao, take this old man as your disciple. This old man is willing to give the entire alchemist guild. Stop. I am not taking any more disciples, and Guild President Fa Ma doesn't need to be like this. Xiao Fan couldn't handle this grand courtesy. Had he known it would be so rowdy, he wouldn't have come to see these old fellows. A mere 6th-rank Wangji pill was actually able to stir these old fellows into making such a fuss. Princess Xiao Yu thought to herself upon hearing Xiao Fan's words, Master won't take any more disciples. Then isn't I Master's only disciple? Princess Xiao Yu felt wonderful inside, but she also had reservations in her heart. My natural talent is average, and I'm not that smart. It seems I can only offer myself in marriage. Master, you can't blame Princess Xiao Yu for this, it's all because Master is too good to me. Jia. The wicked smile in her heart actually made a sound. Everyone in the main hall looked at Princess Xiao Yu, who was smiling wickedly, feeling puzzled. Jia Xingtian felt even more that his old face had lost all its luster. Ouch. Princess Xiao Yu was hoisted up by Xiao Fan. Xiao Fan looked at the silly smiling Princess Xiao Yu with a strange expression, silently sighing in his heart. How on earth did I take such a dim-witted fellow as a disciple? Pardon the unseemly display, everyone. Not at all, not at all. Isn't the little princess quite adorable? Indeed, indeed. Who dared to laugh? On one side was the little princess of the Jama Empire, and on the other was the disciple of a sixth-rank alchemist. Neither identity was one they could afford to offend, let alone laughing. Treating the other party like an ancestor wouldn't even be a problem. Nalanjia finally couldn't help standing up and bowing toward Xiao Fan, saying, Master Xiao, thank you for your timely rescue last time. This is a token of gratitude from the Nalan family. There was a purple figure faster than anyone else, snatching Nalanjia's storage ring. After taking a look, she very naturally put it into her little treasure chest. Xiao Fan was slightly stunned. This fellow actually still has a place to hide private money. Ziyan's storage ring was currently in Xiao Fan's hands, but the little trick just now couldn't escape Xiao Fan's notice. It's necessary to thoroughly check things when we get back. However, seeing Ziyan's sneaky and shifty appearance, Xiao Fan knew that what the Nalan family gave shouldn't be a small amount. Chapter 110, Attending the Banquet. That Xiao Xian, Great Master, we already gave that girl Yanren a sound thrashing after returning. I wonder if you could grace the banquet prepared by the Nalan family for the Great Master this time. When Nalanjia thought of the Xiao Fan before him as his Nalan family's fiancé, his heart couldn't help but surge with excitement and he almost misspoke. Xiao Fan casually felt the spot where Ziyan had just hidden her storage ring, only to find that the storage ring had long since vanished. Where did she hide it? Ziyan was extremely pleased, secretly feeling thrilled. Just look at the spatial talent of my void ancient dragon clan. Ziyan, won't fall for that again. Seeing that he couldn't find it, Xiao Fan didn't press the matter further and shoved 2 sugar pills straight into Ziyan's mouth. Only then did he reply to Nalanjia's words, since Elder Nalan has invited me, naturally I will go. Upon hearing this, Nalanjia realized that Xiao Fan still cared about the engagement after all. What Nalanjia feared most was Xiao Fan annulling the engagement in front of numerous experts of the imperial capital. After all, given the current scale of the Nalan family, to Xiao Fan, it could be said to be utterly insignificant. How could Xiao Fan be going to the Nalan family because of such things? It was nothing more than giving that foolish woman a reminder. Quote. After seeing everyone off, Ziyan pointed in the direction where Nalanjia had left and spoke. Xiao Fan, that old fellow seems to have other ideas about you. Xiao Fan broke out in goosebumps all over. Xiao Yaner, how is that possible? Believe it or not, that old fellow gave an awful lot. Ziyan gestured with her hands to show the size. Let me take a look. No, Ziyan resolutely refused. I promise to return it to you. Swear it. Ziyan took food very seriously. In short, she guarded her food fiercely. As long as it wasn't in Xiao Fan's hands yet, her default assumption was that it was something she could eat. Why would I lie to you? As Xiao Fan said this, in Ziyan's eyes, he was like an older brother next door, full of cunning tricks. Without hesitating, Ziyan turned around, placed her hands on her hips, and said, No, I've grown up, I won't be fooled by you again, prrrrrr. It had to be said that after evolving, Ziyan had indeed become smarter and harder to fool. Egu, I heard that the old fellow from the imperial family sent quite a few medicinal herbs. It seems they can only be given to Princess Xiao Yu to practice her skills. Visible to the naked eye, Ziyan's ears twitched. Within Xiao Fan's perception, he finally learned where Ziyan had hidden the items. However, while hiding them was simple, the way she took them out was a bit unseemly. Then they saw Ziyan open her bloody maw, and a spatial vortex appeared inside her mouth. Ziyan reached out her hand to fish around left and right inside her mouth before finally finding that storage ring. Xiao Fan's eyes narrowed slightly as he thought, it seems Xiao Yaner has hidden other things as well. Ziyan didn't know yet that her little treasury had been targeted by a certain heart-stealing thief. Very unhappily, she handed over that storage ring from just now. HMPH, it would be such a waste to give it to that fellow. I'll let you see it, that's all. Good girl. Xiao Fan patted Ziyan's head while simultaneously probing the items inside the storage ring. Just as Xiao Fan had expected, it was piled high with various medicinal herbs and gold coins. This was probably all that the Nalan family could afford to take out. Isn't what the Nalan family gave a bit too much? Xiao Fan asked in puzzlement. Give it to me. Ziyan swallowed the storage ring in one gulp, evidently putting it back into her little treasury. You fellow. Nalanjia's banquet was set for tonight. Xiao Fan looked at the 2 little ones who had stripped completely bare and were soaking in the wooden bathtub, and nodded. In a short while, they should reach a bottleneck. By then, the resources of the Jama Empire probably won't be enough, so I still have to make a trip to the Black Corner region. Because of its special terrain, the Black Corner region had almost become the most chaotic area on the entire continent. Countless fugitive experts from various countries drifted here, establishing the most barbaric rules. Yet precisely in such a dark forest, it would be easier for Xiao Fan to find suitable medicinal herbs. And the wrongling pill promised to Queen Medusa also had to be put on the schedule. After simply setting up a defensive formation and leaving a small cluster of heavenly flame, he took Ziyan and left the room. Not long after Xiao Fan left, 2 heads, one large and one small, surfaced from the water as if by a telepathic tacit understanding. Princess Xiao Yu looked at the blushing little Qinglin and teased, little sister Qinglin likes master. Glug glug. Little Qinglin submerged her head back into the water, blowing bubbles, leaving only those eyes that flashed with an enchanting light exposed. Princess Xiao Yu was also stunned. She had just asked casually, but she hadn't expected little Qinglin's reaction to be this big. Aren't she and master brother and sister? Wait, Princess Xiao Yu grasped the key to the problem. How can brother and sister have different surnames? She had originally thought the other party was just an ordinary brother complex. After all, who could refuse such an outstanding older brother? Only now did she realize that master didn't just have one child bride. Little sister Qinglin, can you tell me about master? Princess Xiao Yu supported her head as she surfaced, looking at the equally stark naked little Qinglin. Little Qinglin felt somewhat embarrassed under the other's gaze. Why yes, but can you please not stare at me all the time? What are you afraid of? We're both girls. And no way, my body can only be seen by big brother. Quote. Ziyan was not interested in a free banquet, those foods were far too mediocre. What she truly cared about was that Xiao Fan had promised her that all the profits she reaped tonight would belong to her. Meanwhile, in Nalanjia's room within the Nalan family, Nalan Su knelt on one knee before Nalanjia, while Nalan Yanren stood beside her father. Nalanjia remained silent for a long time before speaking. Yanren, do you know that you have an arranged childhood marriage? Grandfather, Yanren knows. Do you know who the other party is? Nalan Yanren of course knew, and even felt some aversion toward this engagement. It is Xiao Yan of the Xiao family. Correct. Grandfather, Yanren does not understand your meaning. Nalan Yanren never hid what was on her mind. Since her grandfather asked, it definitely had to do with the engagement. Could it be annulling the engagement? Nalan Yanran guessed inwardly. You have already met your fiancé. He is Master Xiao who saved my life not long ago. Nalan Jia stared fixedly at the changes in Nalan Yanran's expression. What? Nalan Yanran nearly jumped up, unable to believe the words her ears had just heard. How could it be that fellow? Nalan Yanran loathed Xiao Fan from the bottom of her heart for causing her to lose face. Grandfather wouldn't lie to you. Xiao Bufan was merely his alias. Seeing that Nalan Yanran wasn't speaking, Nalan Jia continued, a 6th-rank alchemist at such a young age, with a Do Huang expert guarding him, and even forming ties with the imperial family, his future achievements will only be higher, not lower. Yanran, for the other party not to come knocking on our door to annul this engagement is already a blessing for the Nalan family. Whether you are willing or not, Yanran, try to get along with him. Master Xiao should not mean to blame you. Nalan Jia looked helplessly at Nalan Su, who was still kneeling. And no way, how could he be so outstanding? Nalan Yanran considered her own halo as a genius to be so unremarkable before Xiao Fan. No wonder the other party had revealed a look of pity when he first saw her. Seeing that Nalan Yanran had not realized the severity of the problem in the slightest, Nalan Jia flew into a rage, drew the belt from his waist, and lashed it across Nalan Su's body. Father, why are you beating me again? Why aren't you taking your good daughter and getting out? Quote. Chapter 111, Meeting Yan Yan again. Sigh, perhaps I shouldn't have casually set this engagement in the first place. Nalan Jia sighed, his gaze melancholically following the father and daughter as they left. Nalan Jia understood in his heart that it would likely be very difficult for Nalan Yanran and Xiao Fan to end up together, the gap between them was too vast. If the other party truly decided to call off the engagement one day, Nalan Jia would have no choice but to accept it. Master, both father and grandfather have told me to befriend that Master Xiao. Nalan Yanran cried out in complaint. Although she had fantasized that her fiancé would be a genius, now that she actually knew, Nalan Yanran felt a sense of unwillingness in her heart. Tell Master why. Yan Yan looked at the incessantly weeping Nalan Yanran and asked. Because he is my fiancé. What? Yan Yan suddenly slammed the table and stood up. Yanran, tell Master everything clearly. Master, what is this? This was the first time Nalan Yanran had seen her master, who was usually so poised and elegant even when just drinking tea, display such a drastic change in emotion. She must be standing up for me. As expected, Master is the best to me, Nalan Yanran thought to herself. Ahem, Yanran, Master has a past with that brat, it's normal. Yan Yan casually found an excuse. That guy actually knows Master. Nalan Yanran had originally thought Xiao Fan was lying to her, she hadn't expected that everything the other party said from beginning to end was the truth. Yes, that brat's alchemy skills are extraordinary, and his strength is not bad either. Yan Yan truly found it hard to believe, the current Xiao Fan far surpassed his former self in both strength and alchemy. However, thinking of the Dragon Emperor who would achieve the rank of Dodi in the future following by his side, it felt reasonable. Master, this matter of the engagement was also told to me by father. The family called me back this time precisely for this engagement. Nalan Yanran told Yan Yan everything Nalan Jia had told her, point by point. After hearing this, Yan Yan fell into deep thought. Could something have gone wrong on the Xiao family's side? Shouldn't my disciple's fiancé be named Xiao Yan? However, thinking of the changes in Xiao Fan and the sudden appearance of the Dragon Emperor, Yan Yan also guessed that the events of her past life had changed. So, was I the only clown from start to finish? Nalan Yanran could not accept this fact. Then, thinking according to what master and grandfather said, he really is a 6th-rank alchemist. Since she was young, Nalan Yanran had fantasized that her fiancé would be a peerless genius. This was every girl's wish. She did not feel there was anything wrong with the engagement arranged by the family. After all, the Fighting Qi continent was still a relatively feudal society. Among the great families, there was never any talk of free love, accepting the marriage arrangements of the family was the most normal thing. Yet, when she truly learned that her fiancé was thousands and tens of thousands of times stronger than her, she somehow became melancholic instead. Furthermore, their first meeting had not been harmonious. The other party hadn't even told her his real name and had intentionally distanced himself from her. To put it bluntly, Xiao Fan looked down on her, Nalan Yanran. As the only daughter of the Nalan family clan chief and now taken as a disciple by the Cloud Mist sect master, Nalan Yanran had enjoyed great glory in the imperial capital. However, these were not due to her own charm, but because people valued the power behind her. Yet her fiancé, relying on being an alchemist, had already made the experts of the imperial capital heap praise upon him. This huge sense of disparity made this, proud daughter of heaven, feel incomparably dejected. A 6th-rank alchemist was someone even the Cloud Mist sect had to treat with deference, let alone her status as merely a disciple of the sect master. Yanran, Yan Yan called out softly. Master. Nalan Yanran pulled her thoughts back, her eyes were actually slightly red. Yanran, if you don't want to be involved in this engagement, Master will help you call it off. Yan Yan also had her own little secret thoughts. If her disciple really had a marriage engagement with Xiao Fan, what would she, as the master, do? Sharing a husband with her disciple was something Yan Yan could not do. Thus, she could only let Nalan Yanran suffer a little loss and persuade her to call off this engagement. Yanran, Master is sorry, Yan Yan thought secretly in her heart. But thinking that her disciple would go to the Xiao family to call off the engagement in the future anyway, and that she was merely advancing the timeline, she felt a little comforted. No, Nalan Yanran refused decisively. After fidgeting for a long time, she finally spoke, I will try to get along with him. Whether out of her family's rigid arrangements or her own unyielding heart, Nalan Yanran would not call off the engagement. She would prove that she was more outstanding than him, and prove that it was not her Nalan family clinging to Xiao Fan. Sigh, Yan Yan sighed softly, understanding that her persuasion was likely useless. Yanran, I hope you won't regret this. With the start of the banquet, many guests had already taken their seats. Looking at the 3 empty tables at the head of the venue, there was no doubt that one of them must be for the host of the banquet, Nalan Jia, but the guests for the remaining 2 seats had not yet arrived. Nalan Jia was pacing back and forth at the entrance with a worried and anxious expression, looking into the distance from time to time. It was not until the appearance of 2 figures, one large and one small, that a smile appeared on Nalan Jia's face. Ziyan had 3 candied haws in her hand, swallowed one in a single bite, and put it into her little treasury. Not bad, I'll take them back for little sister Qinglin to taste. Xiao Fan was speechless. He always felt that the taste of candied haws that had been swallowed and then spat out by Ziyan would change. It would be better for him, Xiao Fan, to eliminate such candied haws. Master Xiao, you have arrived. Nalan Jia and Nalan Su quickly walked to Xiao Fan's side. There is no need for this. Xiao Fan waved his hand to decline. Xiao Fan saw 2 figures standing behind the 2 men. It was Yan Yan and Nalan Yanran. Unlike her usual plain and indifferent style, Yan Yan had actually changed into a bright purple-red long dress today, which, paired with her grace and luxury as a sect master, had a sense of overshadowing the host. The other figure wore a pink and white short skirt, with a white, refined long sword hanging at her waist. She stood gracefully, ethereal and otherworldly, her 2 long pink ponytails bouncing as the young girl looked around. Seeing Xiao Fan's arrival, the young girl lifted her swan-like jade neck. Although there was some immaturity on her face, one could still see her stunning, peerless beauty. Under Yan Yan's guidance, Nalan Yanran slowly walked in front of Xiao Fan, her tone apologetic as she said, Master Xiao, it was Yanran who was wrong last time, I beg for Great Master's forgiveness. Xiao Fan hadn't adapted to Nalan Yanran's change for a moment. Did this person have a change of character? The atmosphere was a bit awkward. Xiao Fan did not respond to Nalan Yanran's words, and Yan Yan took over the conversation. Brat, long time no see. Sect Leader Yan, the reward promised last time has not been paid in full yet. Xiao Fan directly asked for the reward that Yan Yan had promised last time, to choose any 3 items from her storage ring. You are really cold to talk about this as soon as we meet. Yan Yan's beautiful eyebrows furrowed. We're not talking about this. Do you want to date? Xiao Fan was speechless. Yan Yan spoke as if she and he, Xiao Fan, were extremely close, when in this lifetime they were merely acquaintances. HMPH. Yan Yan resentfully flung the storage ring in her hand toward Xiao Fan. This throw clearly carried some force, and Xiao Fan, completely unguarded, would definitely have taken a tumble. However, it was steadily caught by a small, delicate hand. Ziyan said angrily, Big sister Yan Yan can't bully Xiao Fanzi. Xiao Fan, here. Ziyan obediently handed the storage ring in her hand to Xiao Fan. In truth, facing such a frontal attack that actually didn't carry much force, Xiao Fan had plenty of means to catch it, but being protected by Xiao Yan felt rather nice. Gulp. Nalan Jia swallowed hard. What had just happened? Why had a conflict suddenly broken out? Furthermore, judging by the relationship among the 3 of them, this sect leader Yan seemed to know Master Xiao. It was also Nalan Yanran's first time seeing her master's life-chi appearance, but it seemed more like resentment, carrying a young girl's petty temper, and injustice of being abandoned by a man. No way, impossible. How could Master be interested in her own fiancé? Nalan Yanran quickly dismissed the thought in her heart. Xiao Fan, thick-skinned and carefree, immediately probed the items inside Yan Yan's storage ring. Huh, where are my tier 6 medicinal herbs? Where are my high-tier medicinal pills? Of course, Xiao Fan could never have guessed that Yan Yan had long since transferred the original items out of the storage ring. Aside from some clothing and medicinal pills used for treatment, there was nothing else left inside the storage ring now. Xiao Fan's brows furrowed so deeply they formed the character for river. In an unfriendly tone, he said, Sect Leader Yan, this isn't very ethical, is it? What is it, brat? Do the items in my storage ring not meet your expectations? Yan Yan naturally knew what Xiao Fan meant by his words. Fine, you're ruthless. Xiao Fan knew he was in the wrong, but he couldn't just swallow this stifled anger. 3 cyan shadows flashed past, and Yan Yan instantly became furious. Brat, hand it over. Sect Leader Yan, a promise is a promise. I only took 3 things. Xiao Fan smugly tossed the storage ring back into Yan Yan's hands. Using a voice that only Yan Yan could hear, he transmitted his voice. I suppose Sect Leader Yan's worn unwashed undergarments could sell for a pretty good price. Yan Yan's pretty face flushed red. This brat was truly too irritating. Knowing this earlier, she shouldn't have placed her clothes inside the storage ring. Last time, this brat had also swiped one of her. Brat, state your demand, and I'll trade with you, Yan Yan said angrily. It's too late, Sect Leader Yan. I want one to keep in my collection, one for personal use, and one for auction. Surely, through the middle family's auction house, it should fetch a pretty good price. Ha, ha, ha. Xiao Fan's imitation of the Han clan's laughter grew increasingly vivid and lifelike, sounding just like a demon. Personal use, what on earth is this brat trying to do? The more Yan Yan thought about it, the more lingering fear she felt, always sensing that something unacceptable to her would happen. Although this matter had already happened in her past life, she still inevitably found it feeling bizarre in her heart. Everyone else looked at the quarreling pair with dumbfounded expressions. A question surfaced in their hearts. What kind of treasure inside the storage ring had been taken away by Xiao Fan to make the Cloud Mist sect master so furious? The collection inside a Dohuang storage ring must undoubtedly be extraordinary items. HMPH, as you like, Yan Yan angrily turned and left. She had originally come to back up her own disciple, but instead, she was the first to lose her cool. TCH, a silly woman who can't take a tease. Xiao Fan was completely unbothered. How could Xiao Fan actually take them out to be auctioned? Anyone with half a thought would know he said it on purpose, purely to retaliate against Yan Yan for breaking her promise. Suddenly, a black figure flew straight toward him. Xiao Fan reached out and steadily caught it. Before Xiao Fan could see clearly, Yan Yan spoke up, this is a medicine cauldron to compensate you. It was passed down from the Cloud Mist sect, and I heard it was once used by a grade 8 alchemist. The Cloud Mist sect has such a treasure. Xiao Fan looked in surprise at the intricate inscriptions on the ancient black medicine cauldron. Objects nurtured for a long time would also develop a spirit, let alone a medicine cauldron used by a grade 8 alchemist. Within these various fire vents, there were actually faint roars of dragons. For a moment, Xiao Fan even suspected whether this could be one of the medicine cauldrons on the heavenly cauldron ranking. At this thought, Xiao Fan unconsciously summoned his heavenly flame. The scorching temperature instantly elevated the surrounding heat, but even after being roasted by the heavenly flame, the medicine cauldron still showed no changes whatsoever. The temperature to the touch was even somewhat chilly. Something's wrong. This medicine cauldron has hidden mysteries. Xiao Fan increased the output of his doji, and the cyan gold flame became even more solid. Under this circumstance, Nalanjia and Yan Yan simultaneously circulated their doji to activate defensive barriers. Nalanjia was probably the one most clear about the power of a heavenly flame, having suffered the baptism of a heavenly flame once before. Under the burning of the heavenly flame, the medicine cauldron's ancient black outer shell gradually peeled away. From the gaps of the peeling shell, slowly emerging purple golden patterns radiated a mesmerizing luster. Just like auspicious clouds at the edge of the horizon, the purple golden patterns drifted across the outer shell of the medicine cauldron. As the ancient black outer shell completely dissipated, the true appearance of this medicine cauldron was also revealed before everyone. An incomparably majestic giant dragon coiled within it, with the auspicious clouds seeming merely to be a foil to this golden dragon. This. Xiao Fan dared to be certain that this medicine cauldron was no less inferior to those on the heavenly cauldron ranking. He had originally planned to get his hands on the myriad beast cauldron from the Black Corner region to use as Xiao Yaner's rice bowl, but right now, he had an even better choice. Seeing this scene, Yan Yan felt so regretful her heart ached, and she complained inwardly that fellow Jiyu he used it for so long in his past life and actually didn't discover the hidden mysteries within it. However, this couldn't be blamed on Jiyu he either. After all, that former grade 8 alchemist of the Cloud Mist sect had similarly failed to discover the hidden mysteries inside this medicine cauldron. Sect Leader Yan is certainly generous with her actions. This Xiao will accept Sect Leader Yan's kind intentions. Seemingly afraid that Yan Yan would regret it, and also feeling that keeping it in the storage ring wasn't safe, Xiao Fan said to Ziyan, open your mouth and eat it down. Xiao Fan, this is too big. I can't fit it in my mouth. Ziyan looked at Xiao Fan with a wrong expression. It's not big, it'll be fine in a moment. Xiao Fan wouldn't believe a word of Ziyan's nonsense. If this were a sugar pill this big, Xiao Fan believed Ziyan would definitely be able to swallow it down. It was simply that Ziyan didn't want this strange big guy to contaminate her little treasury. Ziyan reached out her fair, tender little hand, demanding something. Xiao Fan understood immediately. Ziyan was asking for protection money. Back at Jianan Academy, he hadn't paid a small amount of it. The little bit of medicinal herbs on my body are almost going to be squandered away by you. Although he was complaining in his mouth, Xiao Fan still very readily shoved 10 bottles of sugar pills in different flavors, all refined during Ziyan's evolution process. Amidst everyone's shocked gazes, a medicine cauldron the height of a person was thus forcefully swallowed down by Ziyan. Hiccup tilde, 10 bottles of sugar pills in the medicine cauldron were swallowed by Ziyan together. The difference was that the sugar pills went into Ziyan's stomach, while the medicine cauldron was hidden away by Ziyan into her little treasury. It was very unseemly, but Xiao Fan dared to guarantee this was the safest place. Nalan Yanran nervously tugged at Yan Yan's sleeve. Master, is she even human? Chapter 113 Apprenticeship. Facing Nalan Yanran's inquiry, Yan Yan could not find a reasonable explanation for a moment. She certainly couldn't say that this was someone who would achieve the rank of Dodi in the future and be revered by tens of thousands as the Dragon Emperor. Ziyan put her hands on her hips, her Do Huang strength sweeping outwards, and pouted her small mouth as she said, "What are you looking at? Haven't you ever seen someone eat? All right, withdraw your Do Huang pressure." Xiao Fan discovered that Ziyan's appetite had become even larger. At this rate of eating, Xiao Fan did not know how much longer he could hold out. Nalan Jia hurriedly invited the ancestor before him into the banquet hall. This was by no means some cute and playful little fellow, but clearly a terrifying bottomless pit. Meanwhile, Protector Wu, who had been searching in the imperial capital for many days, had also gathered quite a bit of information. Among them, what interested Protector Wu the most was this 6th-rank alchemist who had suddenly appeared in the imperial capital. The energy ripples caused by the medicinal pills formation that day were perceived much more clearly by Protector Wu than anyone else. He knew that the alchemist before him was not simply a 6th-rank alchemist, but someone who produced 2 medicinal pills in a single cauldron, 2 6th-rank medicinal pills. Jieji, to think that a 6th-rank alchemist would actually appear in this barren backwater. Watching the departing crowd, Protector Wu was also probing into Xiao Fan's background. He would not get too close, firstly, to guard against Xiao Fan's identity as an alchemist. After all, an alchemist's soul perception was quite a headache, and secondly, out of concern for Xiao Fan's backing forces. Being able to cultivate such a powerful 6th-rank alchemist, the person behind him must certainly not be simple. Sensing someone spying, Xiao Fan furrowed his brows slightly and looked towards the distant direction of Protector Wu. Protector Wu hurriedly retracted his probe. It seems the other party has discovered me. However, it is truly rare for such a young 6th-rank alchemist to also possess a spirit realm soul. Protector Wu increasingly felt that the other party was extraordinary, and even harbored thoughts of drawing him over. The Hall of Souls was not lacking in alchemists, but that did not mean they didn't need alchemists either. If he could win over a potential alchemist, it would also be a great achievement. However, the surname Xiao is quite rare. With a mysterious background in the surname Xiao, it was difficult for Protector Wu not to overthink things. Having made up his mind, Protector Wu decided to observe for a few more days, at least until he thoroughly figured out the other party's background before making a move. Tisk, have I been targeted? As early as the moment Protector Wu probed, Xiao Fan had already pinpointed Protector Wu's location. Feeling the chilling aura, Xiao Fan immediately knew the other party's identity. Xiao Fan. Noting Xiao Fan's strange expression, Ziyan called out with concern. It's nothing, Xiao Yaner. Hearing that Xiao Fan was brushing her off again, Ziyan felt dissatisfied in her heart and said, "You always treat me like a child. I'm not stupid, clearly something is the matter, yet you're brushing me off." Ziyan decided to ruthlessly retaliate against Xiao Fan by gulping down several bottles of sugar pills in one go. Quote. Seeing Nalan Jia actually walking respectfully at the front to lead 2 seemingly young people into the venue, many guests successively grew curious about the identities of the two. Aside from those few powerhouses in the imperial capital, not many people recognized Xiao Fan's true appearance. After all, Xiao Fan had never shown his face in public. Besides, what was the use of him befriending these passers-by? Just as Ziyan, who was currently sitting lazily on Xiao Fan's neck with her legs spread apart and her crystal clear white silk stocking legs swinging back and forth, said, "Xiao Fan, they are all so poor." The moment she entered, Ziyan's treasure-seeking talent had turned everyone present inside out. If there were any treasures that caught her fancy, Ziyan would have already told Xiao Fan. Xiao Fan was naturally clear in his mind. Besides the few major families in the imperial capital, what else could be worth paying attention to? This was also the reason why he promised Ziyan that any loot she fished out would belong to her. A sullen Ziyan sat cross-legged in front of Xiao Fan, unhappily spinning her finger in circles on the table. At this moment, she only wanted to find someone to beat up fiercely to vent her anger. Having gathered her mood, Yan Yan brought Nalan Yanran into the banquet at this time. Unlike Xiao Fan, this newly appointed sect master of the Cloud Mist sect was well known by quite a few people. Upon seeing Yan Yan, they all stood up to flatter her. Yan Yan's entire demeanor exuded a cold, elegant, and aloof aura, looking completely unapproachable and entirely unlike the little girl from outside just moments ago. Facing everyone's flattery, she only smiled faintly and brushed past it. As a new generation Do Huang, even a fake smile made many young scions of major families infatuated, their eyes sparkling with hearts. Yet facing such a peerlessly graceful and stunningly beautiful sect leader Yan, Xiao Fan was merely eating the food on the table out of boredom, showing no demeanor of a great master whatsoever, nor did he hold sect leader Yan in his eyes. What did a sect master amount to? Could she be more peerlessly beautiful and enchanting than Queen Medusa? When it came to pure cuteness, she was not even as good as Ziyan, and couldn't even compare to Dai. Seeing that Xiao Fan didn't even deign to look at her straight, Yan Yan's expression also turned cold. This resulted in the 2 main guests invited by Nalan Jia. One was extremely depressed, and the other was as cold as frost. The air temperature around the banquet dropped by a few degrees. Nalan Jia had conducted an investigation and bought back all the top-tier medicinal herbs from the apothecaries within a radius of several miles, but these common medicinal herbs on the market could no longer attract Ziyan's attention. Seeing the little fellow's dejected appearance, Xiao Fan casually tossed over a bottle of sugar pills. It took a lot of effort for the atmosphere to ease up somewhat, and Nalan Jia, acting as the host, finally spoke to introduce, "Thank you all for coming. Today can also be considered a double blessing." A double blessing. Hearing this phrase, Xiao Fan always felt something was not quite right. One of them was Nalan Yanran's apprenticeship, but what about the other? It couldn't be that this old fellow successfully running back from the Azumo Empire counts as one of them, right? Just as Xiao Fan had anticipated, Nalan Jia introduced to everyone, "My granddaughter Yanran has already taken sect leader Yan as her master. This time, we are also utilizing the banquet to invite everyone to act as witnesses." This was also considered a requirement of the Cloud Mist sect. After all, the matter of a sect master taking a disciple could not be taken lightly. Not only did the Nolan family have to show something, but the Cloud Mist sect would also show something. Nolan Jia had already asked about the thoughts of Josh Xingtian from the royal family. He originally thought it would take some persuasion, yet Josh Xingtian had no objections to this, and it was even surprisingly smooth, as if the Cloud Mist sect posed no threat whatsoever to the royal family. The reason behind this was naturally because Josh Xingtian had been considering how to advance his relationship with Xiao Fan these past few days, and thus had no time to manage the so-called apprenticeship of the Cloud Mist sect. The Cloud Mist sect was at odds with the Jama royal family, but that also depended on the occasion. It was rumored that the former Cloud Mist sect leader was in closed-door seclusion to the death, vowing not to reach Dozong and never emerge, with life and death unknown, whereas now, the Cloud Mist sect only had a primary Do Huang, which was simply not to be feared. Nolan Yanren's apprenticeship process was very simple, which should also have been influenced by Yan Yan. Just by simply brewing and serving tea, the master-disciple relationship was acknowledged, and everything was far too natural. Furthermore, Yan Yan took off the treasured sword at her waist and presented it to Nolan Yanren as an apprenticeship gift. Seen this way, Yan Yan was indeed quite good to Nolan Yanren. Xiao Fan had looked at it. That treasured sword presumably was also a profound rank weapon. It seems I haven't given you anything either. A scroll of recipes is indeed a bit shabby. What Xiao Fan did not know was that if this scroll of recipes were to leak out, Fama alone would be willing to go bankrupt just to buy it. His own disciple definitely couldn't be inferior to Nolan Yanren, Xiao Fan thought to himself in secret. I must make it up to Yue properly when we get back. His own disciple still had to be pampered, even if she was a little foolish. Quote. Chapter 114, Misunderstanding. Cough, cough. Seeing that the apprenticeship ceremony had concluded, Nolan Jia subconsciously glanced at Xiao Fan, which made Xiao Fan even more puzzled. Why do I feel like this old fellow harbors malicious intentions? While the atmosphere was at its peak, Nolan Jia raised his wine glass and slowly walked over to Xiao Fan. Logically speaking, as the host and an elder, Nolan Jia shouldn't have acted this way. But who could blame it when Xiao Fan was a 6th-rank alchemist? An alchemist's identity commanded flattery and adoration wherever they went, with the exception of the Hall of Souls and the Dark Slaves under Queen Medusa. After clinking glasses with Xiao Fan, Nolan Jia drained his cup in one gulp before asking, I wonder how Master Xiao views this old man's granddaughter, Yanren. Nolan Yanren. The question was somewhat abrupt, and Xiao Fan wondered, is there a problem with how I view Nolan Yanren? Nolan Yanren, sitting beside Yan Yan, grew unnatural in expression. Although she appeared very indifferent on the outside, she cared deeply on the inside. Clearly, not long ago, I even disliked this fiancé of mine a little. Nolan Yanren always felt that she had been influenced by her father and grandfather, which caused her attitude toward Xiao Fan to change. Upon closer inspection, although the youth in front of her leaned lazily, his upright posture and pair of charming eyes, brilliant like stars, made him appear in Nolan Yanren's eyes like a true immortal descending from the heavens. Merely leaning there, wisps of faint pressure radiated out, making him seem like a deity in her eyes. In their eyes, Do Huang was already the upper limit, the strongest existence. How could they know that the soul was also divided into realms? Nolan Yanren's pretty face flushed with a rosy hue like colored clouds, her red ears trembling slightly, and her small hand resting on her matching sword constantly rubbing. Being still young, she could not hide her inner thoughts very well. On the other hand, Xiao Fan acted like a seasoned veteran. Wasn't a banquet supposed to be about eating one's fill and casually getting things done? Shouldn't the primary condition be eating one's fill? All of this was taken in by Yan Yan, who sat beside Nolan Yanren. Thinking of her somewhat desolate ending in her past life, Yan Yan always felt that her disciple would head toward the same outcome. In her past life, Nolan Yanren and Xiao Fan did not have much intersection. It was more related to Xiao Yan, the fiancé betrothed to her in the past life. Young Miss Yanren is both talented and beautiful, born with the makings of a country-toppling beauty. Today, she has even entered the Cloud Mist sect, and her future glory will be boundless, leading the Cloud Mist sect to another height. Being on someone else's territory, Xiao Fan still gave a bit of face, but what he said was actually true. In the future, the mountain peaks of the Cloud Mist sect would be sliced off by someone due to the conflict between Nolan Yanren and Xiao Yan. It truly would reach another height, on a physical level. Moreover, the entire Cloud Mist sect suffered countless deaths and injuries, leaving the sect existing in name only. But these words sounded completely different in the ears of Nolan Jia and Nolan Yanren. He's actually praising me. The feeling of being publicly praised by one's fiancé was quite good, even if their relationship hadn't been made public yet. Nolan Yanren was naturally a person who admired the strong. Otherwise, in her past life, she wouldn't have gone to annul the engagement after learning that her genius fiancé had fallen into wastefulness. But thinking that during their second meeting she had humiliated the other party. It was only then that Nolan Yanren thought of an important question. Who was she? She was naturally referring to Ziyan. Nolan Yanren hadn't forgotten that during their first meeting, Xiao Fan had been protecting that little fellow by his side, and their relationship was extremely intimate, just like how Ziyan was peeling grapes and feeding them to Xiao Fan right now. A younger sister? Impossible, doesn't her fiancé not have a younger sister? Yet Nolan Yanren lacked the courage to find fault. Even she could tell that Xiao Fan and Ziyan had an exceptionally good relationship, and whether their engagement would be recognized depended entirely on Xiao Fan. As for Nolan Jia, he was slightly stunned, his brain rapidly processing the meaning behind Xiao Fan's words. But after much thought, he felt that Xiao Fan was likely just purely praising Nolan Yanren. Although the words were polite, at the very least it showed that Xiao Fan did not feel aversion toward Nolan Yanren, and that was enough. If their affection wasn't deep enough, Xiao Fan was at least still in the imperial capital, and they could still cultivate their feelings. As the banquet drew to a close, Xiao Fan and Yan Yan walked together into an empty courtyard. Little brat, what are you looking for me for? Xiao Fan casually set up a barrier to prevent others from prying. Seeing this action, the blush on Yan Yan's neck faded, and she transformed back into that aloof sect master. Having taken such a huge advantage of sect leader Yan, this Xiao feels bad in his heart and intends to tell sect leader Yan a piece of information. Little brat, you still aren't willing to tell me your name. Yan Yan's focus didn't seem to be on the information in Xiao Fan's words. Sect leader Yan, this information concerns the life and death of your Cloud Mist sect, yet you ask what my name is. Is that appropriate? Xiao Fan was truly speechless at Yan Yan. He had no idea how this sect leader Yan, viewed by others as aloof, became like a silly woman whenever she came around him. HMPH, let's hear it. Yan Yan let out a dissatisfied cold snort. In fact, she had already guessed what information Xiao Fan was going to say. Your master, which is to say Yan Shan, should be trading with the Hall of Souls right about now. Upon hearing this information, Yan Yan did not show the anxiety and unease Xiao Fan had imagined, as if she had known about this matter long ago, nor did she even ask how he, Xiao Fan, knew about such a major event. Sect leader Yan, you don't seem surprised. So what if I know? How could a mere Cloud Mist sect contend with the Hall of Souls? Yan Yan's expression remained unchanged. These words weren't wrong. The Cloud Mist sect lacked the qualifications and strength to contend with the Hall of Souls. Even if it was just a branch hall, casually dispatching a few protectors would be enough to sweep through the Cloud Mist sect. Sigh, then sect leader Yan should take care of herself. Xiao Fan removed the barrier and turned to leave. Yan's cold appearance only changed upon hearing these words, a faint smile hanging on the corners of her lips. Are you caring about me? No, your focus as sect leader Yan is truly bizarre. Xiao Fan finally cursed in exasperation, taking Ziyan with him as he left the Nolan family. Before leaving, he did not forget to warn Ziyan, Xiao Yaner, don't play with her. If you stay with her for too long, your brain will be affected. Yan murmured softly, I thought you liked this aloof type. In the previous cave, Xiao Fan had repeatedly mentioned that she should be icy cold and unreasonable, which led Yan to slowly adjust her personality into this current aloof appearance. However, what was awkward was that when Yan turned her head, she actually saw Nolan Yanren hiding behind a pillar. Xiao Fan's barrier not only isolated external perception, but it also isolated Yan's perception. Yanren. Master, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have eavesdropped on your conversation. Nolan Yanren, caught red-handed, hurriedly apologized. Yet the doubts in Nolan Yanren's heart grew even deeper. The smile curved at the corners of her master's lips was still hanging there even now. Her master seemed to know her fiancé in a way that wasn't as simple as it appeared. Chapter 115, Promiscuity. Yanren, when did you come over? Yan asked with a hint of nervousness in her tone, stammering like a mistress caught by the legal wife. Nolan Yanren did not dare to deceive Yan, so she could only honestly reply, not long after master came out, I quietly followed over. Nolan Yanren handed over her sword with both hands, lowering her head and speaking in a respectful tone, Yanren shouldn't have eavesdropped on master's conversation, I beg master for punishment. Yan had a bit of a headache. According to Nolan Yanren's words, didn't she watch the entire process of her conversation with Xiao Fan? Fortunately, there was a barrier, so Nolan Yanren did not hear the earlier contents. Looking at the straight-standing Nolan Yanren, Yan only let out a faint sigh and said, I won't punish you this time, but if there is a next time, don't blame me for being impolite. Thank you for your understanding, master. However, Yanren, have you ever thought that your fiancé has already pulled away a considerable distance from you? Master, Yanren will work hard to catch up, Nolan Yanren said in a firm tone, viewing Xiao Fan as her chasing target. Yan just wanted to give Nolan Yanren some pressure. Judging by Xiao Fan's advancement speed in this lifetime, Nolan Yanren probably wouldn't even see the back of Xiao Fan in her entire life, and the distance between the two would only grow faster and wider. Nolan Yanren didn't even have the strength of a Do practitioner right now, and had only just condensed her Doji Chi. Being accepted as a disciple by Yan was also due to the master-disciple relationship from the previous lifetime. Catch up to him, I'm afraid it won't be long before this brat becomes stronger than me. I really don't know what he eats to boost his cultivation. Yan complained inwardly, but having a goal was still beneficial for Nolan Yanren's growth. Quote. In the room, Nolan Jia and Nolan Su were discussing everything that happened today. Yanren seems to have a good impression of Master Xiao. Nolan Su spoke up. Having a good impression is fucking useless. You need to make Master Xiao have a good impression of Yanren, otherwise this engagement is just a piece of scrap paper. Nolan Jia sneered. Xiao Fan's responses to everything were far too polite, blocking the questions he wanted to ask right in his throat. How's the handling over at the Xiao family? Nolan Jia sat down unhappily and asked. Nolan Su still paid close attention to matters concerning the Xiao family and immediately replied, I have already sent elders from the family to re-establish relations. It should take about half a month for the news to be passed back. Sigh, I really didn't expect that the fallen Xiao family could actually give birth to such a prodigy. Nolan Jia sighed leisurely. A 6th-rank alchemist, I just don't know why the Xiao family didn't leak a single bit of information. Logically speaking, if the Xiao family had produced a 6th-rank alchemist, shouldn't they have relocated back to the imperial capital long ago? The two of them obviously didn't know that walls have ears. Protector Wu listened to all of this, a fallen Xiao family. A fiancé. Hee, I didn't expect to hook a big fish. Protector Wu was not in a hurry to contact Iron Protector. He planned to probe for more information to see if he could swallow this big fish alone. This was the key to getting promoted, getting a raise, and advancing to a Sky Protector. Quote. There is nothing more relaxing than returning home to see a tidy house and having two cute little fellows throw themselves into one's arms. Little Qinglin listened to Xiao Fan's words and would not easily use the power of her soul, but the connected heart feeling still allowed Little Qinglin to instantly sense Xiao Fan's return. Little Qinglin in his arms wantonly rubbed against Xiao Fan's chest, and catching Xiao Fan completely off guard, abruptly kissed Xiao Fan on the side of his face. Qinglin, what are you? Ever since her boldness last time, Little Qinglin had become increasingly proactive. However, for this to be an action Little Qinglin would initiate on her own, Xiao Fan did not believe it, someone must have been tampering behind the scenes. Just like Princess Xiao Yu right now, who was tilting her small head and looking at Xiao Fan with a beaming smile. Elder brother, do you not like it? Princess Xiao Yu said, kissing will make elder brother happy. Little Qinglin was unhappy, but she clearly saw that whenever Sister Ziyan did this, elder brother would always show a joyful expression. Qinglin, we agreed that you wouldn't betray me. Princess Xiao Yu instantly became flustered. It's over, master is definitely going to punish you again. Master, I suddenly remembered that I haven't finished reciting the medicinal herbs yet, I'll come find master later. Princess Xiao Yu bolted, terrified that if she ran too slowly, Xiao Fan would drag her back for a severe punishment. Compared to others, Little Qinglin was like a pure white, flawless sheet of paper, and the subtle influence of those around her would carve a deep stroke into Little Qinglin's memory. But it was obvious that the people around her were going to corrupt his Little Qinglin. I like it, Qinglin. How could Xiao Fan bear to let the little fellow be sad again? Xiao Fan gently lifted Little Qinglin's lowered head and lightly kissed the exact same spot. Little Qinglin's eyes flashed with a peculiar radiance, revealing an innocent smile. Hee, I like elder brother too. Once again, two little ones, one big and one small, hung onto Xiao Fan. Supporting Little Qinglin's springy little bottom, Xiao Fan pondered inwardly, should I just bring Qinglin along? It's a bit pitiful to always leave her waiting alone at home. But without solving that trouble in the imperial capital, Xiao Fan truly lacked the confidence to casually take Little Qinglin out. If those fellows from the Hall of Souls found out that Little Qinglin also possessed a spirit realm soul, they would undoubtedly snatch her away. Xiao Fan might still have the ability to protect himself, but Little Qinglin would become a prime piece of fat in the eyes of others. Although the triple jade green snake flower pupils could enhance strength by absorbing controlled serpentine demonic beasts, improving strength still required a process. The Hall of Souls, truly a troublesome thing. However, Xiao Fan discovered that the other party didn't seem to have any intention of making a move yet, presumably also guarding against him. But being monitored at all times felt like having a blade hanging over his head, which made Xiao Fan extremely uncomfortable. Night fell. Xiao Fan's head ached as he looked at the three little ones on his bed. If word of this got out, Xiao Fan's reputation would definitely take a bad hit, and characterizing him as a pervert wouldn't be an exaggeration. Fortunately, little Qinglin fell fast asleep as she wished, embraced in Xiao Fan's arms, which could be considered making up for not being able to properly accompany little Qinglin these past few days. Why have you sought this king? Seeing that little Qinglin and the other two little ones had fallen sound asleep, Xiao Fan tiptoed and woke up Xiao Kai, who was also sleeping soundly in his arms. After feeding her a green lotus seed, he successfully awakened Queen Medusa. Carer, how much certainty do you have in defeating a dozong? Xiao Fan straightforwardly stated his request. A dozong, who have you provoked again? Queen Medusa didn't remember which of Xiao Fan's femme fatales had advanced to a dozong besides her during this time. What do you mean by provoked whom? It's actually not because of a woman. Queen Medusa let out a cold snort. Xiao Fan would not allow anyone to slander him, and immediately retorted, you make it sound like I'm so promiscuous. Is that not so? Queen Medusa controlled Xiao Kai, who spat out its snake tongue in dissatisfaction. Quote. Chapter 116, Plan. Considering you've been pretty good to Xiao Kai, this king specially grants you permission to state your request. You really are sharp-tongued and soft-hearted, Xiao Fan muttered softly. You heartless brat, don't even think about this king helping you if you run your mouth again. For a moment, Medusa only remembered that her relationship with Xiao Fan was no longer like it was in their past life, and her mind had been thrown into disarray just by that cry of Carer from Xiao Fan earlier. Don't be like that, Carer. Xiao Fan looked pitiful. It's those fellows from the Hall of Souls. It should be a protector, at least at the dozong level, and if stronger, they might even have the strength of a 6-star or 7-star. The Hall of Souls, how could those fellows set their sights on you? Medusa didn't think Xiao Fan at this time should have any ties to the Hall of Souls. It's a long story, it could be because of my soul, or it could be because of my surname. Medusa seized upon the key point, a surname, but you clearly shouldn't be a person from the Xiao family, right? How do you know these things? Xiao Fan didn't remember ever telling Medusa about his background, so how did Medusa know about them? Medusa reacted quickly, brushing aside all unreasonableness with sheer unreasonable dominance. Does it matter to you how this king knows? The world experiences this king has seen are far greater than yours. Opponents at the dozong level are not easy to deal with. As someone who knew Medusa inside and out, how could Xiao Fan not know what Medusa wanted? What does Her Majesty the Queen want? Xiao Fan wasn't afraid of Medusa making an exorbitant demand. At worst, he would just go find other helpers. Transformation Pill. The transformation pill was a tier 7 medicinal pill that allowed a demonic beast to possess a human form and human cultivation talent. However, the problem was that Medusa had already advanced into a 7-colored sky-swallowing python, so this transformation pill would no longer have any effect. Asking a dozong to take action for a tier 7 medicinal pill wasn't considered too excessive. Her Majesty the Queen, how can you be certain that I can refine a tier 7 medicinal pill? Xiao Fan raised his doubt. With such great alchemist talent, would a mere tier 7 medicinal pill stump you? That may be so, but what does Her Majesty the Queen need the transformation pill for? What, is it wrong for me to ask for a dowry in advance for my good-for-nothing younger sister? Medusa's tone turned somewhat icy. Xiao Fan quickly denied it. Her Majesty the Queen cannot speak recklessly about this. Diana and I are innocent. Did this king ever say she was going to marry you? Xiao Fan's heart skipped a beat. Did I expose something? The surrounding temperature dropped by several degrees along with Medusa's murderous gaze. Brother. A soft, sweet voice came over. Qinglin, her eyes half open and half closed, groped around under the covers to find Xiao Fan's position. I'm here. Xiao Fan grasped Qinglin's hand. Feeling the familiar aura, Qinglin's drooping eyelids slowly closed again, and she fell peacefully back to sleep. Hey, and you said you aren't promiscuous. What about now? Medusa ruthlessly exposed him, having caught the different color flashing in Xiao Fan's eyes. Let this king think, you seem to really like raising others. Xiao Fan, whose thoughts had been pierced through, did not deny it. Then Xiao Kai, do you also count as someone I raised? Hiss hiss. Her Majesty the Queen. Hiss hiss hiss. You can't just try to act cute to get away with it. Xiao Fan directly cradled Medusa's face, staring into her pupils as he spoke. Stared at by Xiao Fan, Medusa's beautiful eyes finally conceded defeat, and she guiltily turned her head to the side. HMPH, brat, I'll help you out this once. The slit pupils of the snake eyes returned to normal, which meant Medusa had already returned control of the body to Xiao Kai. Hiss hiss. To reward Xiao Kai, Xiao Fan fed Xiao Kai another green lotus seed. Such a heaven and earth treasure was finally used up, and as for the fire attribute heaven and earth treasures originally intended for advancement, Xiao Fan hadn't been able to absorb a single one, they had all been squandered away by the little fellow. Sigh, it really is that whatever treasures are in my hands get completely consumed by the little fellows. Xiao Fan put the well-fed and sleeping Xiao Kai back into his sleeve. Presumably, no one would ever imagine that the little fellows hanging on Xiao Fan's body were each more heaven-defying and more terrifying than the last. Of course, solely relying on Medusa was still not enough. Somehow, he had to rope the fellows of the Jama royal family onto his ship. If I remember correctly, the Jama royal family still has a protector divine beast that seems to be heavily injured and still needs a tier 6 Hunyuan bone sculpting pill. Let's use this as an entry point. Although Jia Xingtian's strength didn't reach the dozong level, as a veteran Do Huang, he could barely resist the might of a dozong. Back then, Elder Hai, who loved playing in peak matches, had used his Do Huang strength to stall Yan Chan, who was at the dozong level. As for Yue's gift, let's give her a heavenly flame seed fire. How could the disciple of a 9th grade golden pill alchemist lose face? It could also be considered a master acknowledgement gift to this metal-headed disciple of his. As for the tier 6 gallon water flame, compared to a heavenly flame, it was still too weak. Having figured everything out, Xiao Fan finally fell soundly asleep with his arm around Qinglin's slender waist. However, after falling asleep, there was always a pair of mischievous little feet behind Xiao Fan constantly kicking him. Just kicking lightly would make Xiao Fan feel quite comfortable, but the key was that the little feet of a certain sleeping purple-haired little dragon girl had no sense of restraint. The next day, Xiao Fan only felt physically and mentally exhausted, waking up groggily with dark circles under his eyes. Xiao Fan, did you not sleep well? Ziyan felt that this sleep was exceptionally comfortable. She always felt like she was stepping on cotton, her whole body limp and soft. Lazily stretching, she collapsed back down, yet she couldn't find the feeling of last night no matter what. You fellow, looking at the culprit who had fallen back asleep, Xiao Fan ultimately couldn't bear to wake the little fellow up. Brother, did Qinglin's sleeping posture last night affect brother? Qinglin felt somewhat self-blaming in her heart. It must have been because she wasn't well behaved in her sleep that she disturbed brother's sleep. Brother, how about sleeping on Qinglin's lap? Qinglin's lap is soft. Qinglin wanted to make up for it. It's not your fault. These 3 words ultimately failed to be spoken. Who asked Qinglin's proposed compensation to be too tempting? It was just a pity that Qinglin was still somewhat thin and frail, possessing more bony sharpness than softness. But falling asleep pillowed against a fragrant, warm white jade was also not bad. Qinglin knelt like that. Fearing that Xiao Fan wouldn't lie comfortably, she even used her little hands to support Xiao Fan's neck. If they were replaced with, it would be even better. Perhaps it was truly very comfortable. Xiao Fan's half-squinted eyes slowly closed. Watching the evenly breathing Xiao Fan, Qinglin lowered her head, looking at this brother who had given her a home. That trace of desire deep in her heart burned intensely once more. The early morning sunlight spilled through the window into the room, casting two closely clinging shadows onto the wall. Time seemed to freeze as two soft lips pressed tightly together. Coming back to her senses, Qinglin's cheeks flushed pink, and her tightly clamped legs felt somewhat awkward. Qinglin, you've become the bad child in brother's mouth again. But, Qinglin can't control herself. Qinglin wants this for a lifetime. Quote. Chapter 117 Nether Sea Flood Dragon Beast. Qinglin, you must watch over your sister Xian and don't let her run wild. Xiao Fan instructed little Qinglin. Big brother. Qinglin guarantees she will complete the mission. The obedient and sensible little Qinglin was deeply loved by Xiao Fan. After rubbing her smooth hair, he praised, Qinglin is still the sensible one, unlike. Xian's snot bubble popped in response, and the sound of munching came from her mouth, as if she would jump up and rebel if Xiao Fan called her lazy again. I've really raised a little lazy bug, Xiao Fan said helplessly. Master. At Xiao Fan's request, Princess Xiao Yu changed out of the clothes that were filled with the scent of medicine. Wearing a set of purple robes inlaid with silver patterns, with an exquisite appearance and faintly revealing a trace of noble temperament, this petite and exquisite young girl finally possessed the temperament of the Empire's little princess. Around her slender, delicate waist was tied a purple ribbon, and a slight smile hung on her pretty face, making her appear rather elegant and serene, looking very much like a lady. However, whenever her gaze looked toward Xiao Fan, a trace of quirky and eccentric laughter would flash through her watery eyes. Master, has Yue charmed you? Is Yue very cute? Princess Xiao Yu cooperatively lifted the hem of her skirt and slowly spun a circle in front of Xiao Fan, the straight line beneath the skirt faintly visible. Stop messing around, let's go to your great-grandfather's place. Xiao Fan acted as if he didn't care, turning his head and walking out the door. How could anyone harbor inappropriate thoughts about their own disciple? But the reddened earlobes undoubtedly revealed Xiao Fan's thoughts. Princess Xiao Yu revealed a cunning smile and quickly followed. Although Princess Xiao Yu had been sold out by Jia Xingtian and Yao Yi, she still had quite a few guards left behind waiting for orders. A lavishly decorated carriage appeared in front of the two of them almost the moment Princess Xiao Yu and Xiao Fan appeared. Your Highness the Princess, what are your orders? Uncle Luo, go to the Imperial Palace. Princess Xiao Yu pulled Xiao Fan onto the carriage. Clearly, the space was very large, but Princess Xiao Yu stubbornly squeezed next to Xiao Fan to sit, under the nice-sounding pretext, Master. I have some questions regarding alchemy. Really? Xiao Fan looked suspiciously at Princess Xiao Yu, whose body was practically pressed against him. How could Yue lie to Master? Could it be that Master is disgusted with Yue? Princess Xiao Yu looked at Xiao Fan aggrievedly, just lacking a few fake tears to render the scene. Alright, your acting skills are not even as good as Xian's. Xiao Fan was still unable to resist acting cute and spoiled, tell me about it. Princess Xiao Yu had originally just wanted to get close to Xiao Fan and casually found an excuse. At this moment, her brain spun rapidly as she brought out the knowledge she had memorized to ask him again. Yue, this carriage is not even walking fast. Xiao Fan found that this carriage was swaying and didn't look like it was traveling at all. Even his doji transforming into a horse after reaching the doling stage would be faster than this, it was so slow that it looked more like sightseeing. Uncle Luo, that's about enough. Hearing Princess Xiao Yu's command, Uncle Luo, sitting in front of the carriage, whipped the horse's buttocks. Aiya. The strong pushback force caused the two people inside the carriage to stumble, and Princess Xiao Yu naturally lunged right into Xiao Fan's embrace. Contacting his firm chest and burning hot body, Princess Xiao Yu's subconscious reaction wasn't to push him away, but rather to hug Xiao Fan even tighter. Princess Xiao Yu unconsciously drooled clear, crystal saliva that dripped onto Xiao Fan's clothes, leaving a small trace of sticky saliva. Master, so fragrant. Yue, hurry and get down. The positions of the two were too awkward. Princess Xiao Yu's legs were pressing against an inappropriate spot, making Xiao Fan somewhat uncomfortable. Okay, Master. Ah. Immediately there was another jolt, and Princess Xiao Yu, who had just stood up, lunged onto Xiao Fan once more. The first time was Princess Xiao Yu's deliberate action, but the second time was an accident. Master, you. Princess Xiao Yu was about to lower her head to inspect when Xiao Fan lifted her head up. Don't be curious about everything. Ow. Due to Xiao Fan's strange actions, Xiao Fan had no way to let Princess Xiao Yu stand up either, otherwise, the two of them would only become more awkward, and they could only wait for time to pass. Hearing the commotion inside the carriage, Uncle Luo smiled crookedly, little princess, this old man's driving skills of so many years are no joke. Quote. Jama Imperial Palace. Xiao Fan secretly swore that he would never ride this lousy carriage again, it could even jolt on flat ground, and his butt was almost blossoming from sitting. The originally quirky Princess Xiao Yu had now become taciturn, only lowering her head and not daring to raise it to glance at Xiao Fan. Master Xiao. Jia Xingtian had received the message early and brought Yao Yi to wait for a long time. Seeing his little granddaughter's appearance, Jia Xingtian was slightly stunned. These two have something going on. The smile on Jia Xingtian's face could no longer be contained. Ahem, Master Xiao, I wonder if there's anything important to discuss today. Old Jia, let's not speak in riddles, let's find a place to chat. Receiving Xiao Fan's eye signal, the old fox Jia Xingtian immediately understood and instantly dismissed the surrounding soldiers. Under Jia Xingtian's gesture, Yao Yi took her younger sister to catch up. The two of them hadn't seen each other for quite a long time, and the bond between sisters who grew up together since childhood was still very deep. Xiao Fan walked through a quiet and deserted path, stopping only after passing through a barrier woven from energy. Master Xiao, there are soundproofing measures left behind by the Imperial Palace here, let's talk at this place. Jia Xingtian stopped his footsteps and turned to look at Xiao Fan. Xiao Fan looked towards the center of the lake nearby. Understanding Xiao Fan's worry, Jia Xingtian spoke up, this is the depths of the royal family, and also the habitat of the Jama Empire's guardian divine beast, the Nether Sea Flood Dragon Beast. Xiao Fan thought to himself, I was just worrying about how to bring it up, isn't this fitting right in? Plop, a muffled sound rang out. The originally calm lake water surged with ripples and commotion. A pillar of water rose high in the center of the lake, and after the splashing water settled, it revealed the opponent's unimaginably huge head. Resembling a flood dragon with wings on its back, its huge body covered all over in azure scales almost shrouded the entire water surface. The originally clear and sunny weather also became gloomy, and this was merely the portion of the Nether Sea Flood Dragon Beast that was exposed above the water. Old man Jia, my injuries have yet to recover, why did you summon me this time? Sharp teeth were exposed within the wide open mouth of the Nether Sea Flood Dragon Beast, and its tone carried a hint of impatience. There are multiple hidden injuries on your body, which should be lingering hazards left from long-term battles. The one affecting your actions the most is probably this piercing attack that almost impaled your heart, right? Xiao Fan said indifferently. Only then did the Nether Sea Flood Dragon Beast notice Xiao Fan's existence, but its heart was incomparably shocked. It was actually unable to see through the other party's depth, and furthermore, it felt a kind of suppression originating from a higher being right upon the young man in front of it, a suppression that only existed between demonic beasts. Who are you? The Nether Sea Flood Dragon Beast did not dare to speak recklessly anymore. The person who can cure you. Chapter 118, Ganlin Water Flame. Alchemist. The Nether Sea Flood Dragon Beast looked towards Jia Xingtian, only to notice that its old partner actually did not have any arrogance in front of the young man before it, and even had a hint of flattery. Master Xiao, are you really willing to make a move to treat it? Jia Xingtian asked uncertainly. Originally, he actually had such a thought as well, to ask Xiao Fan to refine the tier 6 Hunyuan bone sculpting pill mentioned in the treatment plan he had collected over the years. However, Jia Xingtian had already spoken up to let Princess Yao Yu become Xiao Fan's disciple, so at this moment, he did not know how to bring it up. Old Jia, you should have also collected quite a few treatment methods, right? Jia Xingtian immediately nodded and said, I have collected quite a bit of information, and finally determined that I need to refine a tier 6 medicinal pill called the Hunyuan bone sculpting pill. Hearing this, Xiao Fan realized it was just as he expected, so he did not procrastinate and directly said, how about this, old Jia, you make a move to help me once, and I will refine this Hunyuan bone sculpting pill for the Nether Sea Flood Dragon Beast. Brat, you must not speak nonsense. Although I cannot see through your strength, judging by your age, you shouldn't have the ability to refine a tier 6 medicinal pill, right? The Nether Sea Flood Dragon Beast always felt that its old partner might have also grown old. How could this ridiculously young boy before it possibly be able to refine a tier 6 medicinal pill? Jia Xingtian interrupted the Nether Sea Flood Dragon Beast, stroked his beard, and said, old fellow, you should have felt the energy ripples of the tier 6 pill formation a few days ago, right? Naturally, could it be that old man Fa Ma broke through? Not quite. Jia Xingtian shook his head, his eyes carrying still unforgettable shock as he said, the phenomenon of pill formation on that day was precisely brought about by Master Xiao right here. The Nether Sea Flood Dragon Beast looked at Xiao Fan with even more shocked eyes. This, old Jia, you don't need to pull my leg, do you? Why would I lie to you? Jia Xingtian also knew that this information was too astonishing. How about it, old Jia? Xiao Fan reminded him. Master Xiao, the enemy this old man, must face is probably not simple, right? Otherwise, you wouldn't have me make a move, would you? I won't hide it from old Jia either. The other party has at least the strength of a dozong. A dozong. A dozong was rare in the northwest continent, but that didn't mean they didn't exist. However, the Jiama Empire was located in a remote area, and provoking a dozong was no small matter. Jia Xingtian did not immediately agree. The threat of a dozong to the Jiama Empire was too great. Provoking a dozong would be a devastating blow to the Jiama Empire, which conflicted with Jia Xingtian's desire to maintain the imperial family's rule. Xiao Fan also understood Jia Xingtian's worries and quietly waited for the other party's reply. After a long silence, Jia Xingtian seemed to have made up his mind as he said, what do you need this old man to do? Seeing Jia Xingtian agree, Xiao Fan also smiled and said, rest assured, old Jia, the true main force is someone else. Also with the strength of a dozong. Hearing that there was still help, Jia Xingtian breathed a sigh of relief. At least it wasn't completely without a chance of winning. Ah, you could say that. She's also an old acquaintance of old Jia's. An old acquaintance. Hearing these words, Jia Xingtian felt his body shiver. He somehow felt that this old acquaintance wasn't someone he, Jia Xingtian, very much wanted to see. Xiao Fan still didn't mention that Queen Medusa would make an appearance, otherwise, Jia Xingtian would probably go crazy. The conflict and contradiction between the Jiama Empire and the Snake People tribe were not simple. If Jia Xingtian were to know that Queen Medusa had quietly appeared in the imperial capital, how could he, Jia Xingtian, not panic? Old Jia, the medicinal materials for the Hunyuan bone sculpting pill should be prepared, right? Xiao Fan himself was almost flat broke. It was impossible for him to help Jia Xingtian collect medicinal materials. Ah, I only collected one portion of medicinal materials. Jia Xingtian scratched his head helplessly. That is enough. It's not that this old man doesn't trust Master Xiao, but the refinement of the Hunyuan bone sculpting pill doesn't need to be rushed. If you give it some more time, I will definitely be able to collect a few more portions of medicinal materials. With a few more portions of medicinal materials, an alchemist would have several chances for trial and error when performing alchemy, and the chance of a successful refinement would also be slightly higher. Old Jia, do you know how many portions of medicinal materials were used for that Wangji pill? Could it be one portion? Xiao Fan resolved the doubt. Of course, the real situation was 2 portions of medicinal materials for 2 Wangji pills. Jia Xingtian looked at the Nether Sea Flood Dragon Beast, which had already been convinced, and then took that portion of the Hunyuan bone sculpting pill's medicinal materials out from his storage ring and handed it to Xiao Fan. Then I will have to trouble Master Xiao. Both Jia Xingtian and the Nether Sea Flood Dragon Beast expressed their thanks to Xiao Fan. Old Jia, no need to rush. I must also trouble old Jia to bring this letter to President Fa Ma. It was Jia Xingtian's first time being treated as a messenger, and he was somewhat unaccustomed to it. It's nothing much, it's just that this time, I plan to conduct alchemy publicly. Conducting alchemy publicly, Jia Xingtian was even more shocked. Publicly refining a tier 6 medicinal pill with only a single portion of medicinal materials, what kind of confidence was this? But very quickly, he understood the meaning behind Xiao Fan's action. You are trying to lure out the person behind the scenes. The other party will definitely make a move when I'm weak after the alchemy ends. That will also be the best time to counterattack. Ambushing and killing a dozong, and to have it spoken from the mouth of a young junior, this old man is truly old indeed. Jia Xingtian shook his head and followed Xiao Fan's arrangement to head to the Alchemist Guild. Xiao Fan believed that Fa Ma would definitely not be able to resist such a temptation regarding public alchemy. Looking at Xiao Fan, who had not yet left, the Nether Sea Flood Dragon Beast couldn't help but wonder and ask, Human, is there anything else you need? I heard that Senior possesses the Beast Fire Ganlin Water Flame. I wonder if I might borrow the Beast Fire for use. Xiao Fan needed to borrow a heaven and earth treasure to make himself break through to dueling as soon as possible. The operation of the spirit devouring art had once again reached the bottleneck of a breakthrough, and Xiao Fan needed a high-grade heaven and earth treasure to break through the bottleneck of his realm in one fell swoop. This Beast Fire was originally prepared for the little Princess Yao Yu. Princess Yao Yu is now my disciple, so I will naturally give her something even better. Xiao Fan's palm flipped, and a cyan gold strange fire emerged from the center of his palm. A strange fire. Although it couldn't recognize which kind of strange fire on the strange fire ranking list the one before it was, the instinctive fear of flames that creatures possess still allowed the Nether Sea Flood Dragon Beast to guess that Xiao Fan possessed a strange fire. Human, you are truly willing to split off a subflame. Splitting off a subflame would more or less cause Xiao Fan's realm to drop. Especially for a creation of heaven and earth like a strange fire, every time a subflame was separated, it required tens of millions of years to form and make up for it. Although the Nether Sea Flood Dragon Beast was a demonic beast and its brain was a lot more foolish compared to a human, it still saw the pros and cons of such a situation very clearly. Since I have already taken a disciple, I naturally must give my disciple the best. The Nether Sea Flood Dragon Beast now admired Xiao Fan a bit more. The previous admiration was perhaps because of the other party's strength and alchemy skill level, but the current admiration was because of Xiao Fan's character. To think that the royal family could still encounter such a heaven-sent benefit. Sighing with emotion, the Nether Sea Flood Dragon Beast spat out a cluster of bright azure blue flames from its mouth. Human, this is the Ganlan water flame. Xiao Fan's palm guided his chi into a thread, steadily pulling the floating Ganlan water flame in the air into a jade bottle. Xiao Fan cupped his fists and thanked the Nether Sea Flood Dragon Beast. Thank you, Senior. The Hunyuan bone sculpting pill required by Senior will definitely be handed over to Senior not long from now. The Nether Sea Flood Dragon Beast nodded and sank back into the bottom of the lake. Today, it had already consumed quite a bit of energy and needed to rest for a period of time. Quote ellipsis quote. Chapter 119, Rebelling Against the Master. Grandpa Long, how much longer does Master need? Princess Xiao Yu sat barefooted by the lake, continuously splashing the water to create glistening ripples, while her gaze remained fixed on Xiao Fan, who was refining a medicinal pill. In the Imperial Palace, Xiao Fan was not only refining the medicinal pill required for Princess Xiao Yu to refine the Heavenly Flame Seed, but also making preparations to advance to a doling. I'm afraid it will be soon. This is the first time I've seen a fellow doing alchemy like this. It was the first time the Nether Sea Flood Dragon Beast had seen someone capable of simultaneously refining so many medicinal herbs while brewing different medicinal pills, and even having the mind to craft some strange, pill-shaped pellets. Master's alchemy is simply amazing. Princess Xiao Yu also nodded in affirmation. Indeed, this human doesn't seem like a human at all. Deep down, the Nether Sea Flood Dragon Beast gained a lot more trust in Xiao Fan's previous statement that a single set of medicinal herbs was enough to refine a tier 6 medicinal pill. Thinking about how its injuries could finally heal, the Nether Sea Flood Dragon Beast's originally irritable mood improved significantly, and it increasingly looked forward to the day its injuries would be fully recovered. After all, it currently retained less than 1/10 of its strength, and in a few years, it probably wouldn't even be able to display Do Wong's strength. Master seems to have grown stronger again. Under Xiao Fan's training and guidance, Princess Xiao Yu's soul power had also improved considerably, and now she could keenly sense the changes in Xiao Fan's aura. Indeed, this is the first time I've ever seen a fellow who literally survives on flames. Whenever the Nether Sea Flood Dragon Beast thought about how Xiao Fan had forcefully swallowed and refined the Ganlan water flame it had stripped away right in front of its eyes, it felt that Xiao Fan was even more like a demonic beast than actual demonic beasts. One had to know that what Xiao Fan swallowed was a tier 6 beast fire, even those with Do Wong's strength would retreat 3 steps in the face of it. Under the continuous devouring and refining of the spirit devouring art, the Ganlan water flame completely integrated into Xiao Fan's body, but it failed to leave behind a fire seed. Instead, it was thoroughly devoured and split among the 2 heavenly flames inside Xiao Fan's body. Relying on the energy absorbed during the refinement, Xiao Fan broke through the barrier between Great Do Master and Doling in one fell swoop. A sea urchin-like dough crystal appeared within Xiao Fan's body. However, before Xiao Fan could even polish it, the domineering nature of the spirit devouring art forcibly smoothed away its edges, turning it into a perfectly round sphere. Yet, Xiao Fan's strength did not gain any further boost from this strange change, barely reaching 2-star Doling. The reason for this was still the result of Xiao Fan's strength weakening somewhat due to separating the flame seed. However, Xiao Fan was already content to be able to achieve a breakthrough to Doling. After all, the Ganlan water flame was merely a tier 6 beast fire. Gather. Condense. The cyan gold flame split into 2 in Xiao Fan's hands, and the 2 flames of different powers shot into different medicine cauldrons respectively to calcine the medicinal herbs that were about to take form. As for the medicine cauldron previously obtained from Yan Yan, because of the golden dragon coiled on its surface, Xiao Fan temporarily named it the Tianlong Cauldron. Xiao Fan had yet to discover the mysteries of the Tianlong Cauldron. Aside from a faint, ethereal aura appearing during refinement and speeding up the process, it had almost no other uses. The heavenly flame didn't seem to play any other role either. Moreover, this Tianlong Cauldron was rather picky. It had to be refined using a heavenly flame, otherwise even the temperature of the medicine cauldron would not change at all. I really don't understand who refined such a picky medicine cauldron. It is simply identical to Xiao Yan's picky eating habits. Xiao Fan couldn't help muttering inwardly. Constantly controlling the heavenly flame would accelerate the consumption of Do Qi. Fortunately, after breaking through to Doling, the amount of Do Qi inside Xiao Fan's body underwent a qualitative leap, otherwise refining medicinal pills like this would require Xiao Yaners. The medicinal pill inside the medicine cauldron was gradually taking shape. It was precisely the tier 5 medicinal pill, the blood lotus pill, required for low-level Do practitioners to refine a heavenly flame. Just when Xiao Fan thought everything was foolproof, an anomaly suddenly occurred in the Tianlong Cauldron. The golden dragon that was originally coiled with colorful clouds actually began to float, and 5 flame phantoms shaped like golden dragons emerged from the fire openings of the medicine cauldron, wrapping around the newly formed tier 5 medicinal pill, the blood lotus pill. Before Xiao Fan could figure out the situation, those 5 golden dragons had already merged into the blood lotus pill. What is this? Xiao Fan guided his Do Qi to grasp the blood lotus pill in his hand and probed it with his soul power. An extremely profound and mystical energy was contained within the blood lotus pill, and Xiao Fan found this energy somewhat familiar. After a long while, Xiao Fan associated it with a certain medicinal pill, the Yin Yang Mysterious Dragon Pill, a tier 7 medicinal pill. It could help a person push through death to live, break and then stand, and undergo a nirvana rebirth. Taking the Yin Yang Mysterious Dragon Pill could provide an opportunity for metamorphosis and breakthrough when suffering fatal and severe injuries. The so-called breaking and then standing meant shattering past restrictions, allowing a person to undergo a transformation. Regardless of body, soul, or even Do Qi, everything could reach a higher level, and embedded within it was an energy born alongside the medicinal pill. This is Dragon Qi, Xiao Fan said with some excitement. Dragon Qi, much like Source Qi, was a force that could not be described in words. It was said that those who possessed Dragon Qi had the bearing of emperors, and the world itself existed to serve those who possessed Dragon Qi. Who would have thought that the Tianlong Cauldron had such a function? If it wasn't a coincidence, then the Tianlong Cauldron could certainly add a touch of Dragon Qi to medicinal pills. As an invisible and intangible energy, the Tianlong Cauldron could actually generate it autonomously. This was much better than Xian, who only knew how to stir up trouble. Any medicinal pill refined through the Tianlong Cauldron would carry Dragon Qi. Although the amount might not be much, gathering it little by little would inevitably lead to a qualitative change one day. Putting the blood lotus pill into a jade bottle, Xiao Fan called over Princess Xiao Yu, who had been watching with great interest from the side. Yue, come here. Hee, coming, master. Princess Xiao Yu slid down from the Nether Sea Flood Dragon Beast and scurried agilely to Xiao Fan's side. Master, what are your instructions? Having grown closer, Princess Xiao Yu no longer had that amusing reaction of jumping up in fright like a little white rabbit as she did at the very beginning, which made Xiao Fan lose a lot of fun. Should I be a bit fiercer? Xiao Fan thought to himself secretly, always feeling that if Princess Xiao Yu lost her sense of awe, she would one day end up becoming a rebellious disciple who challenges her master. Seeing Princess Xiao Yu skipping around full of joy, Xiao Fan's sharp words softened. Master will give you a gift today. A gift? Princess Xiao Yu asked doubtfully. Otherwise, why do you think Master was refining medicinal pills here? Xiao Fan knocked Princess Xiao Yu on the head with exasperation. Woo-woo, Master, you didn't say anything, how was I supposed to know? Didn't I say so? Woo-woo, Master has been doing alchemy these past few days, when did you ever say it? Ah ha ha, Xiao Fan scratched his head awkwardly. Ahem, isn't Master testing your ability to read facial expressions and observe colors? Princess Xiao Yu looked at Xiao Fan with a resentful little gaze that seemed to say, do you think I believe that? Master, you're bad. If you talk back to Master again, the gift will be gone. Princess Xiao Yu was speechless. Master was good at everything, but he just loved bullying her. Xiao Fan took out the heavenly flame seed and showed it to Princess Xiao Yu. A cyan gold flame, Princess Xiao Yu asked doubtfully. Isn't this Master's heavenly flame? But very soon Princess Xiao Yu understood. Master, are you planning to give the heavenly flame to me? Quote ellipsis quote. Chapter 120 Rebellious Disciple.